And Ms. Hyde is here. Let's see if any of the dads are here. Not seen any of them yet.
I wasn't able to reach my client.
Ms. Potts, this is your hearing, so you can begin, please.
Yes, Your Honor. I have a quick opening, and then I asked Mr. Baumann to be here. He is an attorney in Washington. He prepared the parenting plan, which is the court order. So I asked him to be here as a resource witness because I think there was a lot of confusion about what is valid, what's not valid, and so forth for the court. I know I was confused. So the bottom line is I'm requesting no in-person visits with Gavin Payne while they're in Washington until such time as he completes the assessments which were ordered in the parenting plan, which was dated.
Hold on just one second. Jamie Dollar. I recognize that name. Who's that?
Your Honor, that's the potential placement down the road. That's the mother of my client's fiance. I don't think she needs to be in. I think we're good.
The mother. Okay. Is that one of the persons that let the kids go visit? Or that was my name, Banks, wasn't it?
No, Your Honor, this is in Texas.
She was the one we were thinking about be letting move into the house with the kids.
That's right. I remember.
So
It's late. They keep popping in. Thomas Jr., I guess he can come in. Okay, remind me if these people talk. I need to swear. I'm not going to do that again. Okay. Okay, keep going.
Okay, Your Honor. So the parenting plan was dated March 5th, 2021, and it states that it's an order of the court, and it required no contact between Gavin Payne and the children until further order of the court. Section 4 of the plan requested different assessments for Mr. Payne to complete before he could see the children. And as you will recall, this is a result of numerous domestic incidents.
Were the assessments and everything he was supposed to do, were they set out in that parenting plan?
Yes, Your Honor. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Just a second. Yes, Your Honor, they were set out in the plan in section 4 of the plan, and it was attached to my motion that I filed. And it required a complete full mental health evaluation with the parenting and personality component, and an evaluation for domestic violence, and also separately for alcohol drug abuse treatment due to the findings that are set forth in section 3. Do you want me to give you time to find the section 4?
Okay.
Your Honor, if I may, when was this filed? Because as court knows, I've been out of town in a jury trial, and I just found out about this yesterday evening, and this is my client that is the subject. I have not even been able to get a hold of him yet. I'm going to object to the timeliness of this hearing.
Your Honor, I believe it was filed over 3 days ago. Let me go check and see. I think it was filed on Monday. Does that sound right, y'all?
And I would respectfully ask this be reset simply because I've been, as I said, out of town and involved in a jury trial, and I did not know about this until Ms. Potts called me yesterday afternoon.
Well, do you have an office that's supposed to keep up with e-files and everything?
I have a legal assistant who was in trial with me.
I don't know. We didn't print out a copy of the motion with that attachment. I mean, I received the parenting plan because of the UCCJEA potential things, but I don't think everybody else received that.
Your Honor, I can check real quick.
Well, the problem is, well, I'm not going to talk about it. Are we on YouTube, Miss Simpson? We are. I can't ever tell.
It says recording and on YouTube on the top of my screen.
And yes, Your Honor, it was filed on Tuesday around 2 o'clock.
Okay. Well, that's what, 48, not even 48 hours. It was an emergency hearing. Let lawyers and constables go to breakout room.
Okay.
Your Honor, would you like the resource witness on the Washington law to be in the breakout room, or
He can go with us. Mr. Barron, you can go. Mr. Barron, Mr. Baumann, sorry.
Baumann.
Please, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, y'all, Mr. Bauman's been sworn. Mr. Baumann, if you can just start out with the history of the parenting plan and et cetera, that's, I think, what we want to hear. Please. You're muted, sir.
Thank you. I'll try as best I can to summarize the history. It's pretty complicated, but I filed a petition for divorce in 2017. And around the same time, we had there was an independent domestic violence protection order that was obtained. That had a 1-year time period, and that lapsed. In the divorce case, it was finalized in August 27th of 2018. And then I forget the date on the maybe someone can remind me of the date of the restraining order, but there was a restraining order entered in the divorce case, and then which was permanent.
That was after divorce was granted?
It was August 27th, 2018, sir.
Okay, so it was entered at the same time as we had a divorce trial. Prior to the divorce trial, Gavin had one lawyer. He had one lawyer for a short time in the divorce case, and then subsequently he had a divorce lawyer after the divorce. So things happen almost every year from 2017 to I'm not sure when it ever really slowed down. Well, it was a bunch of the state filed some contempt motions for not paying child support. The divorce was obtained by default. Gavin didn't show up, and he never objected to anything that was in there. But I think it was after that the current parenting plan was entered. Was that in March 5th of 2021? Emily filed a motion to relocate. That was granted, and the temporary parenting plan for March 5th was entered, which has all those restrictions. That plan is still the law in Washington. It's still in effect. We don't have case schedules, so temporary parenting plans can last for until the youngest child is 18.
Let me ask you a question real quick. So mom filed some type of motion. I'm just going to call it a motion to modify because that's what we call it here. Modify the divorce decree, asking that she can move. And then this parenting plan is like a temporary order under the modification suit.
It is. It's a temporary order, again, that stays in effect until the case would either be dismissed or another order is entered. So that temporary parenting plan would likely survive until the youngest, well, I guess the youngest child is 18. So,
or unless it's superseded by permanent orders.
Right,
Okay.
absolutely.
So y'all don't have a DWOP docket, dismissal docket, and it just goes on and on forever, huh?
Well, sort of, but yeah, they can, the clerks can dismiss them, but in our county, they usually don't, especially in cases like this where not really a reason to dismiss it. It hasn't been dismissed. It's still active as far as I could tell.
And you've represented Ms. Heidi the whole time, correct?
Except on the modification of the restraining order. So on the permanent restraining order in the divorce case, so that's the 17-3 case, she came in and did that on her own. I didn't know anything about that. And I hear, I think Ms. Willis may be suggesting that because she had the restraining order terminated, that somehow affected the parenting plan. I would disagree with that. That doesn't have any effect. I think the difference is that with a restraining order, if Gavin had contact with the children, it would be a criminal offense. Under the parenting plan, as it sits, that says he shall have no contact. If he has contact with them, he could be held in contempt of court. And his parents, for facilitating it, could also be held in contempt of court, because in Washington, third parties can be held in contempt if they're aware of the orders.
Okay, Mr. Baumann, when you're saying restraining order, is that sort of like a protective order? We call them protective orders down here, family violence protective orders.
I think it's identical because it was a permanent order. It was pretty heavy, as I recall.
Because you can be thrown in jail for violating a protective order, but not violating a temporary order here. I mean, unless it's contempt, blah, blah, blah. You know, violation of a protective order is a penal offense, just right off the bat. So let me back up. There was when the divorce was granted, there was also a permanent restraining order put into effect. Is that correct?
Yes.
And Emily, and that restraining order has since been abolished. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Your Honor, if I may, I don't know how to share screen, but I have a copy of the order terminating, and it terminates both the protection order and the restraining order. They're both checked off, and the order says terminated as of this date. Can
Okay.
I?
I get that, but it sounds like the parenting plan those are gone. But the parenting plan is still on.
But they're all the same cause number as the parenting plan. They're all the 273, the 20, whatever.
But they're
17,
But they're different orders. So basically the divorce is a different order. The protective plan or the parenting plan is a separate order, and child support orders are also separate. So those can separately be modified in Washington. Is that correct, Mr. Baum? Sorry for interrupting.
No, that's correct. Thank you.
Okay.
I mean, even in Texas, you could have a protective order in the same cause number. We dismissed protective order, but the other temporary orders remain in effect. So yeah, no, I understand. Was there, Ms. Willis, do you have like a affidavit or anything attached to any of that restraining order sort of dismissal documents?
to the actual order? No.
Well, to a motion before you get to the order.
We don't have copies of
Not
those.
there, I don't have the motion. I just have the parenting plan.
Okay. When was the restraining order? Anybody know? When was the restraining order dismissed?
I think that might have been December 15th of 22.
It's dismissed in this document that I have.
What's the date of it?
Let me see. Yes, you're right, sir, at 12/15/22.
Okay. Okay.
And it basically says the court orders that temporary order for protection filed on August 27, 2018. That's checked off. And then below that checked off is restraining order also filed on the same date. Excuse me, is terminated. And that's really all it says.
Okay.
And it's signed by the court.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Anything else that you know of, Mr. Baumann, regarding the court documents that you think I need to know about, sir?
Oh, I don't know if this is helpful, but Gavin filed a contempt motion twice against, he initially sought full custody. He sought contempt against Emily, I think twice for not allowing visits. The second time he did that, both were denied. And the second time attorney fees were awarded, which is very unusual in my community.
And you said earlier the state filed contempt. You said contempt for non-payment of child support. Was that him that was supposed to be ordered to pay the child support?
Yes, I see a number of docket items that the state filed. I don't know if they had success pursuing support or not. The other thing, I guess the other thing I would say is, I think Gavin's had really made no effort to see the children. And on that time where he was awarded attorney fees, that was December 22nd of 2020. He'd claimed that he'd made all kinds of efforts, but had no evidence for it. And Emily had compelling evidence that he hadn't made any efforts to see the children from probably the fall of 2017 through 2020.
Did they live did they live in the same area?
They do. Yeah. We have a small.
Did so.
And my understanding was that Emily had left the state and she came back and right before she asked for the termination order.
Well, Miss Potts could probably fill us in on that. My assumption is that she came back, or when things fell apart with Thomas, I think it was after that she was pursuing dismissed the restraining order, and my guess is she was just struggling being alone up here with no resources.
You have a good memory.
No.
Yeah. I can't remember that far back. Okay. Excuse me. Anybody have any questions, Mr. Baumann?
Your Honor, I have a couple.
Okay.
And they should be quick. But, the client has stated that she did allow Gavin and the Paynes to visit the children. Does that invalidate in any way the parenting plan?
No.
No. And I think you've already talked about the protective order.
I can just follow up this with one comment on that. If Gavin wants to change the parenting plan here, it's on his shoulders to go to court and seek to do that.
Okay. Did the Paynes also petition to have custody of the children or to see the children?
I
The
don't believe
grandparents, the grandparents? No.
Yeah, we don't have much in the way of grandparent rights anymore.
Okay, so can you tell us what went into the development of the parenting plan? It's clearly a court order. It has some pretty heavy findings in it and some pretty serious findings. What's the process for that, and what goes into that determination for the judge?
Ms. Potts, hold on, I want to go back here a little bit further than that. I want to know what was the need, what happened that made the need for the parenting plan, according to Mr. Bauman's recollection. I don't want to hear that from the mom right now. I want to hear that from him. Why do we even need to file more pleadings after we already got this permanent divorce order?
I'm not sure I understand your question, Your Honor.
Why did y'all come back to court? Why did y'all get the parenting plan? What happened?
Well, that would have been in, I think, the context of relocation. Emily's request to move.
Okay. Now, Ms. Potts, now go back to Ms. Potts' question.
I was just, I think some people have said, well, it wasn't signed by Gavin Payne or his lawyer, and that it could have just been a default, and that, there was really no evidence for the plan. Can you tell us what went into the plan or what the process was and what that was based on?
Not very well. I would have to look back a little bit more, but I mean, I do know there was just a lot of history of domestic violence. There was criminal conduct. There were warrants outstanding. I know that Emily put in her written declarations that some disturbing episodes of violence by Gavin, including headbutting her and breaking her nose while she was holding a baby in her arms. I recall that was happened in Colorado. So it was an intense amount, and I mean, Gavin was litigating. There were times where he didn't respond. The final divorce order was the default, but there were times where he was very involved and had lawyers. So I think he picked and chose when he wanted to be involved. And I don't. I'd have to go back and look to see if how much he contested on the current parenting plan. But that's a very intense parenting plan. I don't get those very often. It requires a lot of evidence for court to grant something like that in Washington.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bauman, on the section 4 that Ms. Potts was talking about earlier, where it says respondent shall obtain a full mental evaluation, with the parenting and personality component. Is that stuff that y'all requested, that you had typed in, or did the court add that, or what?
I believe, I proposed the parenting plan with that language, and unless there's any cross-out language, it should have my name at the bottom. No, it doesn't. I don't think it does have my name at the bottom.
It does.
It does.
So yeah, unless there's something crossed out and handwritten, I would have drafted all that.
Okay. What is an adequate cause determination?
In Washington, you can't modify a parenting plan without demonstrating a good reason to do so.
Okay. Okay. Are these forms that y'all use throughout the state, or what are that are promulgated by the state or the court, or what? They're
state forms.
Okay.
As far as so in section 4 where it says evaluation treatment required, and then there says be evaluated for : everything after the : I typed in.
Hold on. I was going. Let me. Okay. Tell me where the colon. Tell me where you're looking at again.
That should be the top of page 4.
Okay. Where it says respondent shall obtain blah blah blah, all that stuff.
Yes. And then up above on page 3, near the top of section 4, where it says no contact until further court order. I assume that's all just the default language.
Okay. Did you type in to be evaluated for : domestic violence and also separate for alcohol, drug? Did you type that stuff in?
I did.
Okay. Let me make sure I understand all the stuff y'all call it up there.
Mr. Bauman, would the judge have had to have reviewed the evidence before they signed the order to determine whether or not those were appropriate requests?
Yes, I would have had to have some kind of a basis, even if it was a default, before that would be granted.
Mr. Bauman, it says in section 4, on top of page 4, the evaluator must be pre-approved by the court. Do you know if that ever happened?
To the best of my knowledge, well, to all of my knowledge, no, it never happened.
Okay. The evaluation should also provide a comprehensive scaffolding package of things respondents must do to support his ability to be, what is, I don't get, I mean, I know what scaffolding, what do you mean? Like, kind of like step up plan?
No, not exactly. It's more like a support package.
Okay. Oh, that makes perfectly good sense. Okay.
It's a therapy word, but
Well, maybe I just missed that one in all my hearings. Let's see. Y'all can chime in. We're just sort of asking Mr. Bauman questions if anybody has anything.
Okay, I do. And Mr. Bauman, I'm Agata Vanna. I'm the attorney for the Department of Family and Protective Services here in Texas. And I guess one of my question is regarding the evidence that was presented to the court. Did Ms. Hyde in open court let the court know that she went and had a let Gavin have a visit on April 3rd of 2021, just days before this parenting plan was entered? Did things like that did that come up?
not that I know of.
Okay. And also, like right now Texas has emergency jurisdiction. And so they're essentially modifying all of the protective plans because Ms. Hyde also does not get to have, her children in her possession at this time. So if this court orders, if this court were to order that he have some sort of contact with the children, that wouldn't necessarily be, violating those orders for contempt. Isn't that correct?
Probably getting into some jurisdictional issues that are a little over my head. I know about the UCCJEA pretty well. In Washington, if it was a dependency case, it would absolutely take precedence over the family court case. Whether Texas's does the same, I would assume, but I don't know.
Yes, it does, sir. So in effect, this court can make some findings and ultimately modify that for the time being as we have emergency jurisdiction because the Department of Family and Protective Services got involved. And so that's kind of the same thing in Washington, correct? If CPS takes custody or, they have certain orders that they put in place that kind of supersede the parenting plans, at least for the time being. Is that right?
Well, I don't think they would do that in terms of allowing Gavin to have contact with the children, just because findings have been made that Gavin's dangerous for the children.
So a court in Washington, if he did services or did anything for the department, the court that has jurisdiction over that case, would you say would not allow visits?
No, that's a different question. So if services were provided and they were followed up, I think those would be considered. Okay.
So a court could potentially put orders in place that would supersede the parenting plan.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. No further questions. Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Bauman, to your knowledge, has CPS ever been, or y'all's equivalent of CPS ever been involved with these children in Washington?
Emily could probably answer that better. I think the Paynes have made, as I recall, they've made a number of CPS allegations that were all false. I don't think anything came of them, and I think there was several, and maybe even some in Texas.
But you never went to court representing her in any type of suit involving the department?
No, not that I recall.
Okay. You probably would.
Emily's saying no.
And in your honor, I did provide copies of all of those allegations that were made by the Payne family against Miss Heidi, and they were sent back as unfounded. And
I think I read those a while back. We've had those.
Parties, yeah, they do have a copy of that.
Okay, Mr. Bauman, also in Yawls County, Emily filed against Thomas Barron Jr. I don't see your name on any of those pleadings. Did you represent her in that matter?
I did not.
Well, she has a parenting plan in that case too.
Yes.
Do all pending, like SAPSers, child affecting parent-child relationship, divorces, whatever y'all want to call them, do they always have parenting plans, or does something bad have to be alleged before you get a parenting plan?
No, in any divorce or custody case with parents that are not married, to get final orders with the children involved, you pretty much have to have some form of a parenting plan. Okay. And generally it would be the full form.
The form, is that what you said, sir?
It would generally be that full form. It could come in as like a minute order even, or something kind of unusual, but that would be the norm for sure.
So Judge, I think what happens in Washington is our courts here in Texas, we have everything in one order. We have the divorce is granted, conservatorship, child support is all in one order. And it seems like in Washington, they do all of those as standalone orders, but they're all required in a divorce or child custody case.
Oh, that would make me crazy. Okay.
Yes. Is that correct, Mr. Baumann?
Yes, that's right. Mhm.
Okay.
I said crazier. I guess I needed to fix my adjective. Okay. Wow.
So
Wow.
every divorce and every child custody case has the parenting plan if children are involved and the child support, but they're just all separate, unlike in Texas where we put it all in one order.
Wow. Okay.
Maybe 1 or 2% that have some kind of a combined order, but pretty rare.
Okay.
Wow. Well, it looks like they have forms too, just promulgated forms that they all use, which might make it a little bit easier, but I don't know. Okay. Anybody else have any questions, Mr. Baumann? Been very interesting.
Oh, and for me too. Thank you all.
I'm sure. Okay. Y'all, anybody else?
I just have one question.
Okay. Ms. Bennett, since the children, Mr. Baumann.
Sorry, if you even recall, I heard you say that one of the reasons that y'all filed was because Gavin had broken her nose when she was holding the baby. Do you recall any other incidents like that? I mean, I know this was a while back.
I didn't have a chance to read back through the original declaration that we drafted up, but to get the level of restrictions in the parenting plan, there must have been many, and quite a bit of evidence of, alcohol but just domestic violence. I think there was quite a bit.
When you say declaration, is that some sort of like sworn like affidavit or declaration or something? And is that filed somewhere where we can get a copy of it?
Yes. Yes, it is. Mm-hmm. And I think Ms. Potts should be able to obtain those online.
I do. I have a copy of the one you sent me, and I can see if I can find the one that's actually filed for Miss Bennett.
Yeah, I think the one I sent you was the draft, and the one I believe that was signed and filed. But the one that has Emily's signature and a file stamp on it can be purchased online.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just interested in the affidavit part, because I don't see that I have an affidavit or anything, but yeah, I'd be interested in reading that.
You'd want to check.
I really ought to get all the pleadings in the Barron case too.
You want to double check both cases. So there was a standalone domestic violence protection order petition filed, and then the divorce petition filed. In the standalone, there was, as I mentioned early on, there was a 1-year order that was entered that had an automatic expiration after 1 year.
Right.
I don't know what was filed with that, but there may be some additional evidence in there.
You actually made a note to that in that final decree, and it does have a cause number on it for the original protection order.
And what I can do, Natalie, is send you the link he sent me, so you can go peruse whatever it is you want, and get what you need, because there may be other stuff you want.
Yeah.
Mr. Baumann, did you have any involvement with the paying grandparents during any of y'all's litigation?
They filed some declarations, and I did. I don't have a tremendous memory about it. I have some bits of memory about my contacts with them and their involvement.
Was it pleasant, unpleasant? Do you recall?
The one I think probably most relevant that I remember, they had Emily was working and getting along with them, I think early on, and sending the kids over to them. But then, as I recall, she found out that they were allowing Gavin to
Object to hearsay about that, Judge.
We have a whole lot of hearsay.
I know.
So getting along, I heard what I want to say. Okay. What I heard enough. Sustain. Have you been contacted by Miss Emily, sir, to finalize this divorce or custody for case?
Not recently.
Okay.
I have one kind of question.
Okay, so Miss Vanna, the parenting plan I have is basically what we would call a temporary order, but the Barron parenting plan I have is a final order, correct?
Right, but it sounds like from what Mr. Baumann said is that the temporary parenting plan for Mr. Payne will continue unless somebody files or tries to modify it until the kids are. So I mean, I would say it was pretty much final until something,
Yeah.
unless some action is taken in the courts in Washington.
Ms.
Actually,
Bennett,
while we were talking, Your Honor, I'm sorry.
Ms. Bennett, what'd you want?
Oh, I guess my question is, in working on the case that you've worked on, if you even recall, do you have any information that would suggest that the grandparents would disobey a court order for supervised visits?
I assume they would violate it. I
They
think
would or would not?
they would. I believe that they have done that before.
Your Honor, that I'm going to object as a speculation.
And Your Honor, if I might, there's already been testimony in a prior proceeding where the Paynes have said that there was visits between them. Ms. Bennett just brought up a visit that was between the Paynes and Emily. There were visits after that. So I think it's pretty clear that those visits occurred during the time of the parenting plan being in place.
Well, it's pretty clear to me that everybody violates everything. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. So whatever. I mean, mom does, they do, blah, blah, blah. Dad ain't done anything. They do whatever the heck they want.
I think there's probably quite a different quality. So I think Emily really has done a lot. As a single mom with not a lot of resources and up in Washington, I don't think she had any support system. All her family's in Texas. That's why she's back down there. But she did an enormous amount of work in court, fighting off contempt motions and trying to hold boundaries as best she could. Early on, she was trying to facilitate contacts with the grandparents, but they violated her trust. And then when she allowed Gavin, when she had the restraining order lifted and then allowed some kind of contact with Gavin, that went south really fast. And as far as I understand, then she stopped doing that and she looked for other resources. So there's probably a significant difference in the quality of any kind of violations of the order, but there have been, you're right, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Somebody else, Ms. Bennett, did you have something else?
No, that was all.
Okay. Anybody else, Mr. Baumann, so we can go back to those pretty mountains? Or his favorite ground?
Yeah, I want to know if he's on his back porch drinking coffee.
Yeah.
I am in my office, but I'm wanting to get up to those mountains because the mama bears had triplets this year. So we can see them up there pretty easy.
So is that a picture or is that a window behind you?
No, that's a photograph.
Is it the same mama bear you see every year?
I believe so. Yeah, she usually has twins. But
Oh, that's cool. We would like that, I guess. Whatever.
black bears,
Oh.
they're safe.
They're what?
Black bears, they're safe.
Yeah, okay. It's not right. Okay, yeah. Okay, anybody need anything else?
Thank you.
Mr. Baumann, thank you. You've been a great help. If any of these lawyers or me or anybody can ever help you on anything in Texas, you get their names and we'll be happy to help.
Well, and likewise, if anyone needs help finding the docket and being able to purchase those, just give me a call. I'll show you how to go do that. And I just express gratitude to everybody for your kindness and respect towards me.
I do. I have to have a UCCJEA conversation with one of the judges up there, and they're available like on Mondays. Well, those aren't always good days for me, so we'll figure it out. So maybe Todd says your number, I might need you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Potts, what else? We got the back lawsuits. We got all that.
That's all, Your Honor. I just wanted to be sure that the court was aware of that order, that it was a valid order, that it was in fact, that it was based on evidence, that it was very serious evidence in order to get that level of restrictions, and just really a legal argument about the order and whether or not the children are going to be safe if they are across the street from Mr. Gavin Payne, and the knowledge that he didn't complete any of his assessments. So really all I'm asking for is that there be no in-person contact until he completes those assessments, which I assume the state will pay for up there. If they don't, maybe whatever assessments that we have down here. I just want to be sure he's safe for the children. And Ms. Payne is truly trying to be protective, and she has gone through a lot to get to this point. She agreed to the TMC. She wanted her children to get help. And I think she's really scared and afraid that they're going back up there to be in that same circumstance again when she's tried to do everything she can to get them help. And that's all I have.
Okay, Miss Willis, do you know why he didn't do anything from the 2021 order, even before CPS here got involved 3 years later?
Your Honor, I thought we were going to reconvene tomorrow. I haven't had a chance to speak with him.
I don't know, Bernard. I said I was gonna think about that.
I haven't had a chance to speak with him. I just got in last night, and I've been trying to reach him.
Miss Vanna, what time do you think we're gonna be? I mean, what do you think about tomorrow? Miss Lane? Y'all, I don't have a clue.
I mean, it really will depend on whether the parents show up, Judge. If they don't, I think I would have to recall my caseworker just for the updates from the last court hearing to now, which should be fairly short. And then I would just call Mr. David Fowler Casa, and that's it.
Miss Lane?
I agree, Judge. I mean, that's really all I know that we're gonna have to put on unless the parents are gonna be allowed to testify, so.
I mean, I'm thinking lunchtime, but I have to eat some of the time. I mean, I don't eat breakfast, so I have to eat lunch. And I don't want to be eating lunch on camera, that's rude. I don't know.
And we won't have Zoom going tomorrow, Judge. We'll all be in the courtroom. We don't have anybody appearing via Zoom, so.
I'm letting Miss Kane appear via Zoom.
Oh,
She's in New Mexico, has a house over by Ruidosa, so she's got extenuating circumstances right now.
then I guess I will bring my laptop to get Zoom on. Okay.
Or that was, things changed. That was the last email I got. I slept since then.
Okay.
My client's in Washington.
What does that mean? I mean, I got that.
We were talking about we have a final trial.
Yeah.
tomorrow.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We're trying to see if
I'll monkey wrench into things.
Yeah.
Well, and when I spoke with Susan yesterday, I thought we were going to do supervised visits and a virtual visit before then, just so that we could be assured that the kids are comfortable with the pains. And
I apologize. I apologize if you thought that, but I've been saying all along, no unsupervised and no supervised because of the concerns that the court found in Washington that are listed in that parenting plan.
Well, did not order, okay, help me here, did not order that each dad can get 2 supervised during the day visits during their respective families' times with the kids, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And
You
it's
did.
For 4 hours, no overnight. If they're like going to the movie, they can go to the movie, blah, 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 that kind of stuff, right?
That's
Yes, Your Honor.
correct. And Mr. Fowler also said that he reached out to the CASA up there to do, to pop by and ensure everyone's complying. The department has no concerns about these relatives violating any orders, Judge. Mr. Payne has been having video contact as well with the children, and they absolutely love that contact and want to go see everybody. And he's been nothing but appropriate, even in times, and if we get to this, Ms. Karen Galloso can testify to this, but even in times where some parents might have gotten upset or done something due to the circumstances or something a child had said or shown, he was very appropriate and supportive. And so really the department believes that, first of all, our orders will supersede all of those parenting plans. Obviously, we've got custody. Mom doesn't have the kids in her possession, and that these grandparents and other relatives will be protective of these children and ensure that everything goes well. We don't have any concerns about them, Judge, for either side, actually. The orders that were ordered at the last hearing, we think are appropriate, and that the children will be safe.
Who's the caseworker? Let's see, Miss Galloso. Have any parents done, or let's just talk about Mr. Payne and Mom. Has anybody done anything on their service plan yet?
Mr. Payne is engaged with a behavioral health center in his local area. Your Honor,
Okay.
he's waiting for a new therapist and he'll start his services. Mrs. Heidi, she has been engaged with her therapist. She has completed her psychological and she is following through her service plan. Mr. Barron has to reach out and get services through his local area. So here locally, we have Mrs. Heidi as well as her paramour Jay that are actively engaged with their therapist.
Has anybody drug tested, alcohol tested, et cetera?
No, Your Honor, part of the court order, it doesn't state any drug testing for any of the parents, but if you wish, we can do that.
And also, Judge, you ordered that all of the criminal, the criminal histories be provided to all the parties from the other states. Those were provided. It does show, obviously, Mr. Gavin Payne had some issues pretty early on with some assaults and things like that, and that the last thing on his criminal record was December of 2015.
What, does mom have anything on hers?
No.
No.
No criminal records.
Okay. So I didn't order drug testing for anybody or alcohol testing for anybody?
No, Your Honor.
Judge.
And Judge, I believe if I understand, Mr. Payne's issues were more alcohol than anything else.
Correct.
Did I put in the order no alcohol consumption during the visits with the kids? I didn't put any of that, did I?
No, Judge.
Okay.
And Mr. Payne does live directly across the street from the grandparents.
Is that, yeah.
Okay.
In a house they provide, or that's kind of weird. What is it?
No, Judge. It's so Ms. Kimberly Payne is actually Mr. Gavin Payne's stepmom. And so Mr. Payne's biological mom, apparently he inherited or she gifted, I don't know how that happened, some property that was across the street from his father. And they've put a little tiny home on there and they're working on getting the utilities and things like that. So apparently it's a nice little property. So hopefully Karen will be able to go see that when she takes the kids. And I encourage her to actually go see all of those residents for sure.
Yeah, I go see all the dad's residents. I hope you're doing that. Hope you're one-stop shopping when you go up there.
Your Honor, I plan to fly up on the 28th of this month. We have made contact with the Paynes and we will view that house. The Banks, which is Mr. Barron's relatives, they haven't started their ICPC home study yet, but the Paynes are almost finished with theirs. So we'll have a complete home study with all the interviews and everything through the state of Washington.
Well, I want you to go to the Banks and I want you to go to Mr. Barron's house too, okay?
Well, the Banks are on vacation, Your Honor. So I would have to fly back and do that. They're not going to be available. That's the reason why the Paynes are willing to supervise phone conversations with Mitchell and his father, because they will be in Alaska during the time that we drop the kids off for the visit.
But are you going to go see where Mr. Payne lives?
Well, absolutely. I mean, he lives on that property as well, Your Honor, but he knows that he can't have access to the kids without supervision.
Oh, I meant Mr. Barron. Sorry, Mr. Barron. Too many people. I meant Mr. Barron.
I haven't made contact with Mr. Barron, but I was under the impression that they don't live in the same community. So I would have to look at the logistics, Your Honor.
Well, look into that, because if you're up there and if they're semi-close, it'd be good to one-stop shop and do it all.
I think there is a considerable distance between the Banks and the Barron's home versus the Paynes, but I'll look into that, Your Honor.
I think it was maybe an hour or two.
The Paynes live close to each other in the same town. Is that correct?
I think it's the aunt and uncle that they're being faced with for the visitor. Like
Thomas could tell us he lives there. If y'all want Thomas to speak up.
Yeah. Mr. Barron, where does everybody live?
So the Paynes live in Port Angeles, which is 15 minutes east of where I live. I live in Swim. And then my aunt and uncle live about 45 minutes to an hour towards Seattle in Port Orchard.
Where is Mr. Gayoso having to fly into to get the kids back up there?
Seattle Tacoma International Airport was called SeaTac, which is a 2-hour ride for me.
Sounds like it's doable.
Your Honor,
I commute from Swim to Port Angeles every day for work, so it's a 15-minute drive from my house into Port Angeles.
Yeah, that's definitely doable.
Yeah, we can visit Mr. Barron's house, Your Honor.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure about the banks because they will be on vacation and returning early that week.
Well, maybe you can do a drive-by.
And Judge, just to remember, Mr. Barron still lives with his mother and Charles, and they're they haven't gotten their own house yet. Welcome. I'm sure they'll happy to have you come by, but it's not going to be where he ultimately lives, whenever we start getting Mitchell back around.
Yeah. Okay, Ms. Willis, I want you to see if you can get Mr. Payne. Is he going to be, are you having any contact with him?
Oh yeah, he tried to reach me while I was in trial, and we've just been playing phone tag.
Okay.
So
Why don't we do 4 o'clock tomorrow? What do y'all think?
Okay.
And if we're still going, I don't know what I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
Lawyers in that case, help me here.
I'm hoping we're not going still, Judge.
Well,
We'll do our best. How about that?
Yes.
the issue is whether or not we're going to do 0 contact or supervised, right?
Well, I've already ordered supervised, so
Okay, well that's all I was worried about.
well, it could go down to 0. Ms. Vanna, what?
I was going to say, I think Ms. Potts doesn't want in-person supervised either.
That's correct. And I think we just had testimony from an attorney saying that there's no doubt that order would be violated.
Let's just do this. Let's recess till 3:30 tomorrow, and y'all get on Zoom at 3:30, and or not Miss Van and Miss Lane, because if we're not with me, we know where we're being. And if y'all get on at 3:30, and then then we might have some kind of bearing then. So, might have to wait 30 minutes, might have to wait 15, or we might just go, or I don't know. But let's get on. I hate 4 o'clock on Fridays. So let's try to do 3:30 and we can go from there. Okay.
Yes, Judge.
Yes, Your
And
Honor. Thank
all
you.
I want to hear tomorrow is I want to hear from Mr. Payne.
Okay.
Unless anybody has something quick. I don't think we need any more witnesses. Do y'all? Ms. Bennett, Dave, Fowler, what do y'all think?
No, I would like, I don't know, maybe Judge, Ms. Galloso has supervised some visits, the virtual visits, so maybe she could at least testify and let the court know how those are going, since she did supervise them and how he's handled different situations that have come up as well.
That's fine.
I don't know if that should happen tomorrow or if you want to hear that today.
Nope. Hasty's next. Nope.
Oh, it's noon. Okay.
And I think we need Mr. Payne here for that and hear what he's, his side of the story too.
That sounds good.
Do you want the grandparents that are supposed to supervise Mr. Payne?
Be nice if they were here.
Okay.
I agree.
I mean, we've been talking about him.
I mean, I don't have any issues like with Mr. Barron and with his aunt and uncle and all of that. We talked to them and they seemed very appropriate and we don't have any negative information at all about them. But as far as the grandparents supervising Mr. Payne that are going to have the kids for part of it, I didn't know if you want to hear from them or read I mean, you already told everyone they had to obey the court order and very strictly, but I don't mind trying to get a hold of them.
Yeah, I mean, there are 2 of them. Maybe one of them can appear. I don't know, but it'd be nice. And if Mr. Barron doesn't want to come, I'm okay. If the Lightens are okay with that, I'm okay with that because we're not really talking about him. I mean, he might want to. His kid's going to be over there, so he might want to hear. But that's his. Yeah, Miss Lane, that's y'all's deal.
Yeah, I don't have any issues with him not appearing since we're not changing anything as to his.
Right.
Judge, if you don't mind, may I step out real quick and go to the restroom before our next hearing starts?
Yes, because I'm going to need to give Diet Coke. Yes. Okay. We were hearing. Thanks. Okay. See y'all Tuesday tomorrow. This week's been crazy. Earlier this week, and we had to reset until today. So we have. Let me see what time I have to leave.
And Judge, I don't see the caseworker. Morgan, are you filling in?
No, she was on earlier. Her mic would not unmute. I told her to log off, log back on. She's trying to do that. She's also trying to find a quiet place in the office because apparently there's a whole bunch of people there right now. But I'm texting her right now.
Okay.
I have to leave at 1. Let's just say we need to be finished at 1:30. So at least we'll be finished at 1:30. Might not be finished, but we'll be done at 1:30. So, okay. And I reread all the home studies or all that stuff. So I have a bunch of questions too, but maybe, so let's just kind of let's, like in that last case, let's not be real lawyery. Let's just get to it and go from there, everybody. Okay.
All right. So Judge, I was going to call Audrey. Is she in the waiting room yet, or?
She was, and then like Miss Milloway said, maybe she's coming back now. No, Deb's laptop. She's
She's right there.
Okay. So Your Honor, I'll call Miss Audrey
I
Spicer.
can never hear everybody in the courtroom. And then of course we have the technology issues.
Judge,
It's
I
awful.
can go ahead and move on to somebody else until Audrey gets available if you'd like. So we don't waste time. I'm going to go ahead and I'd like to visit with Debbie and Will. Go ahead and call them. So we've got, can y'all introduce yourselves, please?
I'm Debbie
And your last name?
Hack.
And
Shelby's
who's with
mom.
you? And who's with you?
Wilbur Hack, Shelby's dad.
Okay. And so we're not gonna let both of you guys talk. So I'm going to ask Deb the questions and, we can circle back around if we need more input. So, Deb, do you guys live on the same property, or does, Garrett and Shelby, they live with you guys? Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have they been living with y'all?
We've been in Oklahoma for 3 years and they've lived here with us.
And prior to moving to Oklahoma, where did y'all live?
We lived in Buchanan Dam for 20 years.
Okay. And did you attend church in that area?
We did. We taught youth at a church there in Kingsland, Texas.
What church? At Pack Saddle? Okay. And did you have an opportunity to meet Shelby Hasty or any of her family during that time?
Yes, when we went to a church previous to that, we were involved with her family. And then when we were teaching youth over at Pack Saddle, one of her brothers was very involved in the youth. He was at our house all the time. So yes, we were very involved with them.
And who was that brother?
We had
Alec Hasty.
Okay. Did he go to school with any of your children?
Shelby was homeschooled, but Garrett went to Llano School District, and that's where Alec and Becca both went, Hasty.
Okay. And so you said he was over at your house a lot. What does that look like? How frequent is that? Once a week, once a month?
We always did a Wednesday night youth group, so they were always there at the church. Sorry, okay, say it again.
It's just how frequently he was at your house often?
Usually on Sunday afternoons after church, a big group of the youth would come over, including Alec.
Have you kept in touch
regularly, at least once a week?
Have you been in touch with Alec in the recent past? Do you know what he's up to?
I do. He is going to college to be a surgeon, and he's 4 years of schooling.
So has he already finished his medical school, but he's going on for a fellowship? Is that right?
That is correct. Yes, he's doing an internship currently.
Do you know Alex's mother or any of their other family friends, a woman named Danielle?
Danielle, yes, we know Danielle. She lives here in Oklahoma. She moved here since we had moved here. She wanted to be closer to us. I do know she's about 45 minutes from us. I do know Alec Hasty's mom, know her. Didn't have a whole lot of dealings with Becca. She was a little bit older than Alec, a year or two maybe. But we did interact with her and her other siblings, her younger siblings we interacted with.
Okay. And to your knowledge, now Garrett is friends with new Becca from school. Is that right? Was he in the same grade as her?
They were, yes.
Okay. And do you have any grandbabies?
We do not.
Do y'all ever have children around your home though?
You cut out. We frequently have children around the home, or Shelby and Garrett have their niece at the moment, so she's been here for the week. So we frequently have children around.
So who is that niece? What is her name?
Her name is Emily.
And is she really a biological niece or a family friend?
She's he's family adopted that's not legally adopted, and it's his child.
What is his name?
His name is Emmanuel Ruiz.
Okay.
He's lived with the family
and
for years.
And does that child come and visit frequently or each year?
She comes at least once or twice a year. Yes.
And when she's there, is Shelby and Garrett responsible for her, or is she someone you guys are watching out after?
Absolutely, Shelby and Garrett are responsible for her.
And Shelby, we had heard testimony day before yesterday that Shelby has some health concerns, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Has she ever had to have an emergency admission to a hospital for anything related to her diabetes, her arthritis, or anything of that nature?
No, ma'am, no emergencies like that. I mean, she's gone to the ER for one or two things, but never an emergency admission. But she did have something with her liver when she was in Texas, and that was a very weird thing, but she was fine. She recovered from that quickly.
Okay. How long ago was that? Do you know?
That was about 3 years ago.
Okay. Do you have any concerns about her ability or Garrett's ability to be able to provide protection and give appropriate care to an infant, basically a 7-month-old at this time?
I do not have any concern. I do not have any concern. She is very loving and very loves to tend to children all the time.
So the young girl that is there with you now, did Shelby provide care to her when she was an infant?
She did. Her and Garrett's sister's infant were about the same age. I think they may be a year apart. And they all lived with Shelby and Garrett. So Shelby and Garrett were responsible for a lot of the care because their parents weren't always available because they were working or
Okay.
whatever. So they were usually the ones caring for the children.
Okay. And so what kind of business are you guys in?
We do horse trailer repairs.
How long have you been doing that?
We started doing this when Shelby was about 2, so about 21 years. But in between there, we've also done building of homes and remodels, boat docks there in the Hill Country. So we did that for a while. We took a break from the trailers, and then we were back to doing the trailer.
And is that the income you live off of? Is that business that you're doing? And do you
Yes, ma'am,
do you own any, is your property mortgaged or your home mortgaged, your land?
It is not.
And
It is paid for.
are your vehicles paid for?
They are all paid for.
Are you debt free, as they say?
We are debt free.
Okay. And do you have any retirement from your previous business where you were building the homes, or has that been invested in the property you're in?
It's been invested in the property. That is our retirement. We'll figure that out.
Mm-hmm. And you have a 21-year-old son that lives with you, is that right?
Yes, he does.
What is his name?
Ryan Hack.
And what does he do?
He works with us on the horse trailers, but he also does small engine repair for the customers that are around here.
Okay. There was a question about your monthly budget and the cost of insurance up there in Oklahoma. So you said you had 5 vehicles and they're all paid for. Are they on full coverage? Are they on liability? And what is your monthly expense for automobile insurance?
For our automobile insurance, it is $315, and that is for our 4 vehicles. 2 of those are liability only, and the other 2 are full coverage. They are not newer vehicles. They range from a 1998 to a 2009, but they are nice vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
And insurance in Oklahoma is considerably cheaper than Texas, and we're also in a rural area, so that makes it cheaper.
So, but does Shelby and Garrett, do they have a different vehicle than the ones you're telling us about right now?
Yes, there are a total of 5 vehicles on the property. One of them is theirs.
Okay. Since y'all, Shelby and Garrett have been in the process of trying to be considered for placement for baby Camden, have you seen Becca out in your home? Has she been to your home at all during this time?
Yes, ma'am, she has. She's been here 3 times. She was here for Thanksgiving of 2023 when she asked them to foster adopt her baby. And then she was here for Easter of 2024. We had a big gathering and a dinner. And then she was here just this past weekend for a family wedding. So she's been here 3 times since November of 23.
Do you know how far have you been to her home or where she is?
I have. We go to Danielle's occasionally, and she lives next door to Danielle. She's 45 minutes from us.
Okay. And so she doesn't just roll up to your house anytime she wants to pop in on y'all?
Absolutely not. She does not drive very often.
Okay. I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Okay. Excuse me. Anybody have any questions, Ms. Debbie?
Not at this time, Judge, but Miss Spicer has taken, I guess, a colleague's laptop, and it should say Lupe, and once she's in, she can change that name.
Maria. I bet she's Maria.
Maria Henry. Mm-hmm. Oh, she calls her Lupe. I'm the only one that calls her Maria.
I call her Maria.
Okay.
Yeah, I never heard that other name before.
Okay. Hopefully, Ms. Spicer, can you change the name, your name on the screen, please?
Can we test it to make sure we can hear her? Audrey, say something. You muted again. Oh, there, she changed it to Audrey.
My goodness. Okay. Okay, you can mute yourself for now, but just okay. I don't have any questions at this time.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? Let me look at all my questions, see if that, one of my questions, where Ms. Becca lives, and Ms. Debbie, you said 45 minutes away, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, that was one of my questions. Your kids, let's just call Garrett and Shelby your kids. There's been talk about another mobile home. Is this property, is a mobile home, is all that y'all's?
It is. We have 25 acres, and the single wide mobile home trailer that they have is just a few feet from our home. It's probably 50 feet, probably 100 feet from our home. Yes.
What is it for now?
Is it what?
What do you use it for now?
It was purchased specifically for them to have a home to live in. We're in the process of renovating it to get it ready for them to live in.
I saw in, it hasn't been admitted, but I don't know, I saw in the emails I got, a letter from a proposed exhibit that Miss Lane wants to introduce, and we're just going to cut to the chase.
Okay.
It was a letter, I think, from y'all's water company that said they're a year behind. God bless y'all. And they're only installing 2 meters a month, and that they anticipate that it'll be maybe a year for them to have water. So how are we going to hook up to a mobile home and live with no water?
That has changed. The water company came by just a couple weeks ago. We told them that they were trying to foster adopt and that may hold that up. So he came by and he said there was another gentleman that wasn't ready, so he switched spots with us. So we can hook up to the water within just a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Which was a huge.
Okay. You might not know the answer to this question, but the Oklahoma Home Study people did this chart, let's call it. I don't even know what it is. It's a graph kind of thing. And it talks about a Danielle Ditto. Do you know who that is?
I do.
Name sounds real familiar. Tell me who
she is a family friend. We taught her kids in youth. So we were very involved with that family. They moved to Colorado. They lived there in the hill country as well. They moved to Colorado and they've since moved back. They've moved here to Oklahoma so that they could be closer to us. They are 45 minutes from us. Becca lives next door to Miss Danielle Ditto. Danielle was very involved in Becca's life growing up. Her and Becca's mom were very close friends and lived together for a while.
Why? Okay. Why would I know that name? Does she have CPS history?
Her daughter does, Judge. You've met her before. She adopted her grandchild, I believe, and she's
her daughter did. Yes, it has been it's been settled.
What was her daughter's name?
Yes, she is.
Okay.
But
she has a child that she has foster adopted that was her niece's child that she's just recently, that is, I believe, 4 years old.
Was that a CPS child?
It was a CPS child, but that was in Colorado.
Okay. Name just sound familiar. Okay.
Well, 3 of this mother's children also went through your system, and Danielle was always a reference to go to, so you may know it from that.
3 of Summer's children?
No, the child that she has foster adopted, her name is, and so 3 of her children went through your system, and Danielle Ditto may have been a contact or a reference for you through that.
Okay. I don't remember that, but that doesn't mean.
I think that was Lampasas, Judge. That sounds really familiar.
Okay, well, I mean, I know the last name Weller does sound familiar, but okay. I was thinking Llano, because y'all are from Llano, so that's why I was thinking that. How long have Shelby and Garrett lived with y'all?
Since they got married, they had on our other home in Buchanan where we lived for 20 years, we had 6 acres, and they had a double wide there that they lived in. So they lived there since we've been here the 3 years. They've been married 7 years. So they've been with us for the 7 years, other than when they were in that double wide in Buchanan for maybe 2 years.
Okay. But y'all were there too. Sure.
Yes, you were. Same property.
So my next question, I think you already answered, is they ever not live with y'all? Only times when they were at Buchanan next door to y'all, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
We love our children.
Okay. Were y'all involved on Miss Hasty's move to Oklahoma?
We were not. Danielle contacted me and she said, Becca doesn't have a place to live. She's going to come stay here with me. I told her she would always have a place to come. She's coming here with me. She has a baby. I'm going to try and get her to, I don't know the word she used, but reunify with that baby. So that was Danielle's goal. And then after Becca got here, Becca said, I don't think I'm able to raise this child. I would like for Shelby and Garrett to adopt my baby so that I would know where he is. That's how she got here. I was not involved in any of her coming here.
Okay. Do y'all provide any funds, any food, anything for Miss Hasty?
Occasionally when she needs a prescription or things of that nature, we do try and help provide for that, but it's very, very, very minimal.
Okay. And when did y'all move from Texas? 2021?
What was that question?
When did y'all move from Texas? 2021?
Yes, ma'am. April of 21.
Have y'all met, excuse me, have y'all met Camden?
We have not. We've only got to see pictures.
What do you know about your children fostering versus having biological children?
Shelby is very concerned about all of her autoimmune disorders. And with the rheumatology, with the arthritis, it frequently puts it into remission, which is a beautiful thing. But she is very concerned about passing all of those on hereditary to children. She's always talked about from very young wanting to foster children. They even, while they were in Texas, they began to go through the process of doing that. And then they had their Garrett siblings move in. So they were helping out with those two children. There was no more room in the home to do the fostering. So they didn't continue.
So this thought,
that was probably about 5 years ago.
So this thought is nothing new to y'all.
Oh, no, ma'am.
Okay.
She's always talked about doing it. That's just her heart.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I don't have any more questions. Anybody else?
Judge, can we admit Exhibit 3, which was the letter from the water company?
I think everybody's already stipulated your exhibits have. Yeah, Exhibit 3 submitted. Next witness, Ms. Y'all can stay here. Next witness, Ms. Lang.
Thank you, Judge. I'm going to call Ms. Audrey. Can you hear me now, Audrey, and we can talk? All right. There you are.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
Can you go ahead and state your name for the record, please?
Audrey Spicer.
Audrey, remind me, how long have you been with the department?
I've been since July.
Okay. And you're supervised by Morgan Millowade on this case, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And prior to this, did you work at the department in any other capacity?
I had a case previously, besides Becca's.
Okay. But did you do any other job with the CPS? Were you a HCT or HCS person or any of that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And were you a teacher? What did you do before you became a CPS team member?
So I was in college for my internship. I worked at Brownwood ISD. I worked in the mental health department, and I was working with kids of all sorts of mental health issues. And I also worked part of a autism grant.
Okay. So is it fair to say that Becca's case, and you are her caseworker, right? Rebecca Hasty. Okay. And that it's one of your very first cases that you've had, is that right?
My second case, yes.
Okay. So have you had a chance to look at kind of the history of the case and the reports that have been generated? You feel like you have it kind of reviewed the facts behind the case?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you were on were you at the adversary hearing that was held in October?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And at that time, Becca wasn't living in Oklahoma, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But she ultimately got up to Oklahoma, and you remember being notified that she wanted to have Garrett and Shelby looked at as a possible placement for her child. Is that right?
When she got to Oklahoma, yes.
Okay. And would that have been around sometime in November?
I think towards the end of November, I believe.
Right. And the adversary hearing was just 4 or 6 weeks before that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
But she hadn't turned in a caregiver resource form, had she?
No, ma'am.
In fact, you didn't get the information for her biological family till after the permanency conference we had in March. Is that right?
Correct.
And at that time, you and I and Becca had a call, and she followed up with some email information and provided you addresses and phone numbers. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
But you're already well aware of Garrett and Shelby, and you'd actually gone ahead and requested the ICPC, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So after you got the information for her biological family, did you reach out to Alec Hasty and spend some time with him?
So I believe we tried calling and didn't receive an answer. I know I've sent letters and haven't gotten an answer back.
Okay. Did you do the same with Sarah Hasty?
I do believe we tried calling, didn't receive an answer. The only answer I got back was from Dad, Rebecca Hasty's dad.
Oh, okay. And what did it say?
He just said that he would not be able to be placement for him.
All righty. So then you got the results from the ICPC. Do you recall that was back in March?
I
March
believe so, yes.
And you were part of the meeting with Morgan, your supervisor. I'm assuming Casa was there, and then also Miss Ward, the attorney ad litem, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And y'all were reviewing, it was an out-of-state ICPC, so there were some questions that were out there for you guys, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So did you, you got the information for for Miss Emily Jacobs, we heard from her day before yesterday. Miss Shelby provided you her contact information within a couple of days of you getting that ICPC, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So did you call her to try to get clarification about some of those questions y'all had about that ICPC?
I emailed her, and I never got a reply back from that email.
Did you call her?
No, I did not call her.
Okay. Did you call her supervisor?
No, I did not know who her supervisor was.
If you called her, her voicemail tells you her supervisor's number, but you said you never called her. Okay. And then, did you reach out to me to try to get some answers to anybody? Did you call Becca and Shelby
I informed Shelby that, I emailed Emily, and she, I believe, texted Emily, saying that I didn't get a response from her.
Did you happen to share with Becca and Shelby and Garrett exactly what you were looking for, so maybe they could go and get that information and help you get it? Did you let her know what you needed? Okay. And then there was a visit set up for Becca to come in person and visit, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And Shelby and Garrett brought her down here, is that right?
Yes.
And they actually thought they were going to get to meet Camden too, because ICPC had been done, correct?
Before the visit, I think it was a few days before, I informed them that we were just going to do it for Becca Hasty.
But up until then, they had the assumption that they were going to get to meet Camden at that time, prior to that few days before, right?
I informed them that we were just still unsure about the home study, that we knew that there was going to be a special hearing about this placement. And so I figured it'd be in the best interest for them, especially, not to give them any hope whatsoever if they were to get Camden or not, if they were going to go through the trouble of doing that.
Did you ask your attorney for a special hearing? Because we're in June and that was in March.
No, we figured that you were going to request a special hearing for it.
You weren't interested to find out what was up with that home study, to get more information on behalf of from Oklahoma on your own?
We believe that they were not truthful with the home study. So even if we were to ask questions, that they would not have been truthful.
But if you would have, okay, I understand what you're saying. Now you've talked to Becca and asked her what her desires for the placement of that child are, right?
Correct.
And what did she tell you?
She said that she believed that Shelby and Garrett would be the best interest of Camden.
Okay. And that's where she wants her baby to be placed, right?
Correct.
And so whenever she came down to visit, she wasn't able to have that visit. Is that right?
Correct.
And were you notified about the circumstances surrounding what happened?
Yes, I was informed by Shelby.
And can you share that with the court today?
So it was believed that Shelby believed that it would not be in the best interest of Camden to visit Rebecca Hasty, because I guess her anxiety, she also had flare-ups with her stomach issues. And so she went to the doctors at that time.
And Shelby's the one that notified you of that, right?
Correct. And
so she wasn't trying to make an excuse for Becca or trying to, not tell you the truth. She told you what was going on.
Correct.
And did they, as to your knowledge, they turned around and went home, is that right?
Yes, after they went to the doctors, I believe.
Okay. So in your training, you had a lot of training, I'm sure, getting ready to be a CVS worker. Does that seem right to you?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you learn about the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services Placement Process Resource Guide? Did they review that with you in your training?
We go over many policies. I couldn't exactly remember what policies they were.
But a policy that talks about how do you make decisions about placing children? You probably remember hours of teaching on that, right?
Yes.
Okay, and so what do you recall? What is the number one priority according to the policy of the Texas Department of Family Services?
I believe it's family, but I think it's also important to the best interest of the child. That's normally what they talk about is the best interest of the child.
Well, do you recall they talk about the parents and then biological family, then kinship, and then stranger foster? Is that a series that you recall you recall reading it written in the literature?
Yes.
Okay. And always best interest is always tied into every one of those. I mean, even the biological family, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so whenever you've got a ICPC that was okay in Oklahoma, we didn't have a hearing urgently. The department wasn't interested or wasn't motivated to get more information at that time, but there should be a pre-placement visit, some access to the child. So along this way, have you set up any telephone calls or virtual calls for Becca and Shelby?
No, but I believe Casa went to go visit them as well.
But for them to meet the baby is what I'm saying, for them to get to know Camden.
No.
Okay. And would that be important for them to get to see the child to kind of start listening if there's a possibility of a placement there?
Yes.
Okay. So do you think there's a possibility of a placement with Becca and Shelby?
Based on the home study and us believing that the home study was not very truthful, we just think it was not in the best interest to place Camden there.
So we had testimony Tuesday. So for the department, what are the questions that are still not answered?
For example, just when we were told about the water issue, we were told that the trailer was going to be done within 3 months. And then we didn't know about the water issue until Acosta went to go visit them. Another concern is the income for 4 people or 5 people in a home. I mean, 300 on groceries is kind of questionable. I know that just for me individually, it's about $200 of groceries just for me. And of course, with our policies and such, for example, the water issue, having it fenced off. I mean, there's concerns that if they couldn't get the trailer done within 3 months, like they stated, we're just unsure if they would be able to get the fence and all that done.
But the home study qualified them for the home they're in right now.
Right. So they could pass it in Oklahoma. It doesn't necessarily mean that I could pass in Texas.
So what wouldn't have passed in Texas?
Like I said, it was believed that we think that they lied about a lot of the things. Her health issues were a major concern, the water issue. And if they were to move into that trailer, then there would have to be a whole nother home study, like Emily said when she testified yesterday.
Right. But they have a safe place for the child forever and ever right now, even if that other home never gets approved. Right.
I mean, anything could happen.
So for the water issue, so you don't believe them now? They've given you a letter from the local water department that says, hey, sorry about that. We're not going to be able to get there fast enough. You don't believe they didn't understand that was going to be a barrier when they were talking to you guys back in November?
I didn't know about the letter until today.
Well, I'm saying, but if they didn't know when they were talking to you in November and they start the process, it doesn't surprise you that they may not have known that ahead of time when they were talking to you guys?
No.
And then for the income, do you, as part of the home study, don't they do a financial credit checks on people?
I'm not really sure how Oklahoma does it.
So did CASA come back and share that they looked like they lived without adequate means? Their home wasn't well kept for, they didn't look healthy, they don't look like they have transportation available to them, they don't have adequate means. Was there any evidence of that?
That'd be more of a CASA questions. I know that they had concerns of the dogs, they had concerns of the other mobile home that was nowhere completely done. I know that mostly Shelby's and Garrett's support comes from Shelby's parents. I know Garrett works for Shelby's mom's business. And of course, that raises concerns. If something were to happen to Shelby's parents, where would their income come from? I mean, the home that they're currently living in, yes, it looked adequate. It looked safe. But like I said, the home study did not appear to be very truthful.
So they said that they're debt-free. They don't pay any money for rent. They don't pay money except for the insurance on vehicles and gasoline and food and utilities. So you heard testimony that Garrett is making $1,158 a month and Shelby gets $243 in disability. That's $2,161 with no debt. Do you have CPS moms or families that make less than that and they're able to survive on that less amount of income?
Yes.
And are you aware that Garrett's in school?
Yes.
You know what he's studying?
Did you ask me what he was studying?
Do you know what
It
he's
was
studying?
IT, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Cybersecurity or something?
Yes.
Okay. And then, and then in terms of the health concerns, you heard testimony from Shelby's doctor or nurse practitioner that's been her primary caregiver, who has the most recent diagnosis. Did she say anything about Shelby's medical well-being that says that she's not going to be able to be a mom?
Are you saying for her to be unable to be a mom or a biological mom?
For her to take care of Camden?
No.
Okay, so what's still missing for you with regards to Shelby's medical history?
Just because it was reported in the home study that the doctor that they used for the medical reported that she had lupus and all the other concerns.
Did you hear the nurse practitioner say that lupus is part of an immunosuppressed diagnosis that falls in the line with rheumatoid arthritis? Did you hear that testimony?
Yes.
So they're affiliated. It's either you could have one, one or may not be there, or both of them could be there, but she has a definitive diagnosis now of rheumatoid arthritis. Is that the testimony you heard?
Yes.
And so on a home study in Texas, because there are quite a few ponds out here, in your training, is it your understanding that anybody that has a pond would have to have a fence around that pond?
From what I'm understanding, whether any water safety like a pool, it's per policy that they need to have a fence for water safety.
Okay. I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Anybody have any question, Ms. Spicer?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Spicer, when the home study came back, did all the advocates have a meeting regarding the home study?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And were there some concerns identified at that meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And at that time, did somebody reach out to Ms. Lang about those concerns?
I believe we communicated that the ad litem would communicate with Becky Lang.
Okay. And do you know if that communication happened?
No, I'm not sure.
Okay. So at that time, did you believe that after those concerns were made, that maybe you'd get some clarification from the Shelbys, maybe through Ms. Lang?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one?
Yes, ma'am. After that meeting, did you believe that you stated that you thought Ms. Becky Lang would request a hearing? Is that right?
Correct.
Why did you believe that?
Because at the time, Rebecca Hasty wanted the Milbys to have Camden, and we were not in agreement between us and obviously biological mom for placement.
Did you reach out to Ms. Becky Lang about the concerns that the department had or that all the advocates had?
I did not know.
Okay. Were there other visits set up? Were there any visits set up for is it the Garretts? Okay, Milby. For the Milbys, were there any visits scheduled for the Milbys?
Before the home study, we were discussing to have a visit, but when we decided that it would not be the best interest for Camden to be placed there, we did not do a visit.
Okay. And has Becca had visits?
She had virtual visits, and they have not been consistent due to sickness. She had the in-person visit, which was canceled due to sickness and her anxiety.
I'll pass the witness.
Anybody else?
I just have to, I'm sorry, Carrie's raising her hand.
Sorry, I couldn't, I tried to get to the mute button and some other window started popping open and it was just technology. Were the Milbys offered an opportunity to come and visit in person prior to the home study's completion?
I believe we talked about it, but then we also stated that we wanted to wait till we had the meeting to go over the home study before we made any decision.
Okay. Did they ask for any in-person visitation prior to the completion of the home study?
I know they requested it, but then they stated that they didn't want to be too much for Camden for everyone to be there. they just wanted to do what was best for him. And I know travel was also a concern of theirs.
Okay. Have they had video? They have had, I guess they've had pictures, but not videos. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
In Camden's eyes, would he have any familiarity with them?
No, ma'am.
Are the Milbys related to the mother biologically in any way?
No, ma'am.
Okay. To your knowledge, do they have a long-standing relationship with the mother where they would provide a close family tie for Camden growing up?
From what I've understand, it wasn't consistent communication. From what I've understand from CASA, from what the information that they got is basically they've had each other on Facebook.
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
No, ask that question again, Ms. Ward.
I was asking if they provide close family ties for Camden, if they were to raise Camden, if they could provide close family ties. God, I can't talk. Ties to Camden.
Is that hearsay?
No, Judge, I'm sorry, Audrey was saying, according to what the CASA said, blah, 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 that was the hearsay part of it. She didn't know herself, Judge. She was referring to the CASA note to make her response.
Okay, Ms. Ward,
I can move on. I can move on. So based on Ms. Hasty's, well, before she moved to Oklahoma, did she have in-person visits?
Yes.
How many of those do you know?
I believe she had 3 or 4.
Okay. And then after moving to Oklahoma, she attempted the one visit that was discussed previously in your testimony. Is that right?
Correct.
So what happened that caused that visit to be canceled?
I was informed by Shelby that they believed it wouldn't be safe for Camden due to Rebecca Hasty's anxiety and that she was not feeling well. And that's why it was canceled due to the safety of Camden.
Were you informed that they had made it all the way to Texas when in that Ms. Hasty had to go to the hospital?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever talk to Ms. Hasty about that at all?
I messaged her and I did not get a response.
Okay. Did it appear from the communications that you did have with the individuals who were involved that I'll say crisis, for lack of a better word, occurred as a result of the anticipation of seeing Camden in person?
Yes.
Does that make you think that he would be able to grow up having some sort of a healthy relationship with his, knowing his biological mother?
I do not believe it'd be a healthy relationship.
Okay. I'll pass the witness.
Anybody else?
I do, Judge.
Hold on. Anybody else that hadn't asked? No. Okay, Ms. Lane.
So, do you recall, you actually sent this email out, Audrey, April 28th, and it wasn't, nowhere in here it says that it was only because of her visiting Camden. You shared that the medication she was prescribed for her underlying mental health had not been renewed, and she did not have her medications on board. Do you remember? You wrote the email.
Yes.
So would you reconsider how you responded to that question? Whenever she came down and she wasn't able to see him, was it solely because she was anxious because she didn't want to visit her child, or because her medications weren't current and up to date?
From what I understand, basically we believe that it was because of her seeing Camden. I believe I wasn't informed that, no, I think I was informed that by Shelby, not by Becca, that she did not have her medications.
Well, you wrote that in the letter that explained why she was ill. So we don't know. You don't know for sure because she's not had another visit, or she's not, talked to her about it to know even why she wasn't current on her medications. And if she is currently on her medications now, is that accurate to say?
From what I understand, the reason why she didn't have the medication is from the pharmacy not having the medications. From what I understand, I believe that she does have her medications now.
Yeah. So, based on your training, if she's on medications, is there an opportunity for her maybe not to have the same reaction if she's going to be visiting Camden or seeing him in the community or at Shelby and Garrett's sometime down the line? Is there on proper medication based on your training Is that a possibility?
Mental or physically?
Well, I'm talking about her mental health. I think the question Ms. Ward had asked you is it in Camden's best interest to be around his mother when she's in a mental health crisis? So I guess my question is, if she's stabilized on medication, isn't it okay for her to be around her son, not be the primary caregiver, but be a mother figure or somebody in his life?
If she's consistent with her medication, yes.
I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Anybody else? No. Okay, Ms. Lane, next witness.
Yes, Your Honor. I'll call Garrett Milby.
Okay, we got 30 more minutes
Okay, thank you, Judge.
for everybody.
For everybody. Okay. All right.
Yeah, does anyone have any more witnesses, or y'all just have argument and cross-examination? Ms. Vanna?
I don't have any witnesses.
Okay, Ms. Ward?
I don't have any witnesses, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. McCary, you're tag teaming with Ms. Lang. Ms. McClure, you don't know anything, do you?
Not Judge.
Ms. Welch, you have an opinion. I think that just covers everybody. Okay, well, go on. Who else do you have on the call?
I'm just going to be I'll be calling Garrett, and then I'll be calling Shelby Judge, and then I'll be done at this
What
time.
about your folks on here that we haven't talked to?
I don't know who else you have on there, Judge. I've got.
The Cramlets, they're Fosters. Okay. Okay,
Her
Ms.
name is Becca too, by the way. The other Rebecca in the room.
Okay. Debbie testified, so we got that. We don't need her husband. Okay, go on.
Okay, thank you, Judge. Garrett, will you state your name for the record, please?
Garrett Milby.
Okay, Garrett, how old are you?
I am 30.
Okay, where did you graduate from high school?
I'm at high school.
And say it again.
2012.
In 2012. What was your GPA there, Garrett?
My GPA in high school?
Uh-huh.
I think it was a 2.4, something along the lines.
How are you doing in college?
I am currently in college maintaining a 4.0.
Okay, very good. And so what are you studying?
I'm studying computer science.
What do you want to do with that degree?
I'm going to go into the cybersecurity field.
Are there opportunities up where you live to do that, or is that a remote job?
It's actually, there are opportunities in Tulsa. They're becoming a computerized hub, they would call the city. And
How far is that from you?
I can also do it remote.
Okay. How far do you live from Tulsa?
Roughly 50 minutes.
Okay. So you guys moved up to Oklahoma a couple of years ago. What did you do before you moved?
Before I moved, I was a land surveyor for Coughlin and Associates.
How many years did you do that?
5 years as a crew chief.
Okay. And so you made a salary, and were you the provider for you and Shelby at that time? And were y'all living in the same house as her parents, or did y'all have a house on the same property at that time?
We also had the same house on the property. It was a double wide.
Okay. And then tell me about how you know Becca Hasty.
I've actually went to school with Becca throughout the whole high school. We shared several classes together.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I went to school with her brother as well, and we played football together.
Was that Alex?
That was Alec. Yes,
Is it fair to say you had spent a lot more time with Alex than you did Becca?
I spent hourly. I'm not sure, because Becca and I have had several hours of class time together.
Mm-hmm.
Alec and I played football, which was several hours a day together.
Let me just move on. So did you go to the church group with Alex?
I did not.
Okay. Because that's Shelby's mom and dad did the church group. That's right. All right. And so let's talk a little bit about your stepfather, Ben. Where does he live?
He lives in Lano, Texas.
Okay. So you guys don't see him regularly, is that right?
Ma'am.
And do you ever see him?
Maybe once or twice a year. That's right now.
Is he still married to your mother?
Yes.
Okay. And are children allowed to be around him?
They are not. We've made that very clear.
Is that kind of a family rule that y'all have?
That's a rule with my mother, my sister, myself.
Has he ever been to your home in Oklahoma?
No, ma'am.
Have any intention of inviting him up there?
Ma'am.
Okay. If I can do the screen share, Judge, I'm going to whip through exhibits. I'll show you if I can just get the screen. There's Angelica. I'm going to show you some images here. Okay. So Garrett, I am trying to get this to scroll down. There we go. This is going to be exhibit 2A through C. And are you familiar with these photographs? They've already been, how do you know about these photos? Sorry.
Is that me?
Are you recognize? I can't get this to scroll, guys. Hang on, let me move that over. There we go. Now then, yay. Are you familiar with these photographs?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and are these pictures that were taken in the house you currently live in?
Yes, ma'am. I believe Shelby and I both took the pictures.
Okay, and the purpose of these pictures is what?
To prove that we have the carbon monoxide and the fire alarms in the household.
Okay, and is this a double wide trailer?
This is the log cabin style house.
Okay, and it's got how many bedrooms?
4 bedrooms, 2 baths.
And 2 baths. And there's 5 people living in it now. And this is the one that was looked at by the home study folks, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so Your Honor, I'd like to offer respondent mothers exhibits 2A through 2C.
No objection.
Your Honor, we've stipulated it all of Ms. Lang's exhibits.
Okay, I just didn't know how much formality y'all needed. I'm just going to go ahead and show these others.
I've seen them.
Ask for them to be admitted, Becky.
Oh, really? I don't, that's fine. Cool. I didn't, y'all just tell me you can unshare now. Thank you. And Your Honor, if you would, I'd also like to offer exhibits 6 and 7, which are the certificates of the water safety training. And so Garrett, did you, y'all take a class on what to do for water safety for children?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And was that online?
What was that?
Was it online?
Yes, ma'am.
And was it what was recommended to you by the state, or how did you know which class to take?
What was that?
Did they recommend that class, or did y'all just find it on your own?
We found it on our own.
Okay. How do you feel about having Camden come live with you guys?
I feel very excited, and I feel a lot of joy that we'd be able to have him in our life.
How much did you have to do? We heard testimony from Shelby's mom that y'all have been around little infants from your sister and from your friend, Emmanuel, I guess is his name. Were you around? Did you do the baby care for those babies?
Yes, ma'am. They lived with us for a while. Shelby and I both took turns taking care of our niece, quote unquote, and nephew.
How old, what ages were they when you were taking care of them?
They were, our nephew was a newborn.
Okay.
Cared him for a couple years with my sister, and then my brother, quote unquote, and his daughter, they stayed with us for several years, but I think she was 1.
She was 8 months.
Yeah, she was about 8 months.
Okay. And so were you ever alone and to be the only one taking care of that little one?
Oh, yes, ma'am. I would actually take them out on play dates myself and visits and stuff like that.
So there's been talk about y'all may not have enough money to support yourselves and a baby. So tell me about your budget and how you are financially, and when you move into that other home, what that's going to look like.
Of course. As of right now, I'm working part-time with my in-laws. I am making about $15 an hour. Let's see here.
Let's just say in general, do you have money left over each month from what you make and what you pay out?
Yes, ma'am. I
How
have
much do how much do you have left over?
1,051.
Okay. And so in your bills, you have to pay for gasoline, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Utilities. What else? What's on your list of things you pay without saying necessarily how much they are?
Car insurance, gas, phone, water, electric, and food.
Okay. Now, there was concern about traffic coming in and out of your in-laws' property to bring the trailers. How is that managed, and how do you ensure the safety of a toddler running around with that traffic coming and going?
Yeah, we have a backyard that is fenced, but
no, in the current house that you're in right now.
There is a backyard that is fenced.
Okay.
And we know who is coming and going at all times. Our place is a little hard to get to from the maps, so they have to call into us so we can help navigate them to our house.
So people come on appointments, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Anybody have any questions, Mr. Garrett?
Yes, Judge.
Ms. Vanna?
Mr. Milby, so you work part-time, you stated. There was also something in the home study regarding you train dogs. Do you still do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and do you get payment for that?
As this moment, we do not.
Okay, so whose dogs do you train?
We are training our own as of this moment. We're going to have a breeding program later down the line.
Okay, so currently you don't have other people's dogs at your house, is that right?
Right.
Okay, and let's see, do you have a valid driver's license?
Yes, ma'am.
So on the home study on page 11 of 33, it states that you don't want a child with cognitive delays. Is that correct? Do you remember that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so I guess the question is, so Camden is 9 years old, so it's a little too early to know if he has any delays. What if he develops delays? What's going to happen? Are you going to be prepared to continue to parent him?
Oh, yes, ma'am. We'll take classes as we needed, and then we will help prepare to do that in future if that ever becomes a problem, or if that ever presents itself.
Okay. Let's see here. What are your expenses?
So, what we pay on it, everything, or?
Yes, sir. Let's see. Do you have a car?
Yes, ma'am. We pay insurance, which
Okay.
is
How much do you pay for your insurance?
$150.
I'm sorry?
$150.
Okay. Do you travel a lot?
We do travel to Bartlesville every now and then. And then we pay roughly about $100 a month.
Is that for fuel?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Groceries. Do you contribute to groceries?
Yes, ma'am. We pay roughly $300 a month towards groceries.
300 for groceries?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have medical insurance?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it private or are you on Medicaid or government assistance?
That's government assistance.
Okay, do you have to pay for any of that?
No, ma'am.
So there's no mortgage or rent. Do you pay rent?
No, ma'am.
Telephone?
Telephone?
Our phones we pay about $200 a month for.
And utilities?
Any utilities? Electric?
Water and electric. Water is 100. Electric is 200.
Garbage, sewer?
No, ma'am.
It's together with the water.
So do you have trash pickup?
We do.
How does that get paid for?
Shelby's parents or my in-laws pay for that. Right.
Do you pay for school?
Yes, ma'am.
How much do you pay per month?
I'm not paying for school. I'm actually taking out loans for it.
Okay. Are you repaying those loans yet?
No, ma'am. Not till 2028.
Do you have any other loans?
No, ma'am.
Do you have any other debts that you're paying for?
No, ma'am.
So is it fair to say that you are making about $23,400 per year working for the family business?
Yes, ma'am. Between both of us?
Well, just for you, you stated that you work you work 6 hours a day in the home study Monday through Friday, and that you make $15 an hour. So that's roughly $23,400. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you taken any parenting classes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Where did you take these classes?
Online.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, plus the CPS.
And are you willing to speak to the CASA advocates when they call or contact you?
Yes, ma'am.
have you told them that you will only speak, that you won't speak with them directly, but you'll only talk to them through Miss Lang?
I have not told them that.
I'll pass the witness.
Anybody else have a question, Mr. Garrett?
Did I hear you right that the extent of your relationship with Miss Hasty is that you had 4 classes with her growing up and you knew her brother?
I had multiple classes with, we're also in our graduating class. So throughout all 4 years of high school, we have seen each other, talk to each other.
Okay. What year was that you graduated?
2012.
Okay, thank you. I'll pass the witness.
Judge, I'll just, if I may, I'll just ask to admit the photos of the dogs 11A through 11C and ask a couple of questions of Garrett about the dogs. So
I don't have those.
they were from before, Judge, 11A through 11C.
Yeah, there they are. Okay, I didn't see those earlier. They were okay.
So Garrett, are all the dogs, are your animals vaccinated?
Yes, ma'am.
And how old are these animals?
We have 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, 3-year-old. And then we have Rip, which is about 1.5.
Okay. And have you had these animals, these dogs since they were little, since they were puppies?
Ma'am.
Did you say yes?
Yes.
And then in one of the photographs we've already had admitted, there's a little girl with with the dogs. Who is that little girl?
That is Emily. That is my quote unquote niece.
Are you like her godparent?
Yes, we are actually the godparents to her.
Has she been around that animal since she was an infant?
Yes, ma'am.
Have there been any incidences of the animal aggression towards her?
No, ma'am.
Have they been aggressive to anybody?
No, ma'am.
Have they ever been taken up and picked up and detained by any the animal control officers in your jurisdiction for observation for anything at all?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And then
that they're dog people, so I'm good.
You think
my
Judge?
Vaccinated, my grandkids are here, so I like the pictures. I read about them. They're big dogs. There's little dogs. Dogs are dogs. I get it, but I'm glad they have dogs, so that's okay. Miss Ward, so that's okay. Miss Van, everybody likes dogs. Okay.
All right,
and
Judge.
one of their dogs looks so much like my Roxy. I just loved that. I was like, oh my gosh, it's just like Roxy.
We don't need to spend any time on the dogs.
Judge. All right. I just want to ask one more question. Garrett, there is a question during the testimony from the Oklahoma CPS worker about your evacuation plan. Did you guys submit an evacuation plan?
Yes, ma'am, we did.
And to your knowledge, was it accepted by Oklahoma?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
And is it posted in your house at this time?
Yes, ma'am, it's on the fridge.
Okay, I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Anybody else?
Nothing to do.
Sir, questions. Was your wife from Land? She's from Llano too.
Yes, well, she's from Buchanan Dam.
Right. Well, same thing. Same thing. Was she more involved with Miss Becca during high school than you, or would you say she's your friend from high school?
I would say Shelby has pretty good communication with her, because her brother was going to church with them, and they would see the family quite a bit. So I would say Becca's more likely Shelby's friend.
Okay. Were you and Shelby going together in high school?
We were not. We didn't meet until after I graduated.
Is she older or younger than you?
She is younger.
Okay. Okay. What, sir, if you didn't work for your in-laws? I mean, where would you live if y'all had a falling out? We got a backup plan?
Oh yeah, if we were to have a fallout, we could move to Bartlesville, and I've already had people offer me jobs here. I'm working for the oil company, making $20 an hour.
Okay, and what about Shelby?
She would go with me and keep living as she lives now.
Y'all would have to just get regular job and be like everybody else, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I want to refer to this out-of-state home study, ICPC, whatever you want to call it, in Oklahoma. I think somebody asked you a question that says they will not accept a child with the following behaviors. Who gave you that list of stuff? Or did y'all think about those and say, okay, this is what I want, this is what I want, or did y'all A, B, no, A, C, D? I mean,
We didn't understand at the time that this would come through. They told us we would have, it was like optional, we can change in the future. And we didn't understand the full length of what they were asking in that little circle checklist.
Okay, because, I mean, just FYI, most kids have orthodontic conditions. You'd agree with that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't understand the extent, like how bad they'd have orthodontal conditions, stuff like that.
A lot of kids wet their beds or sometimes poop their pants. You understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
My kid has epilepsy, so I guess you wouldn't adopt her, huh?
Well, it wasn't like a dead set thing. Obviously we can talk about it and talk to each other about it. If it's something we can learn and take classes on, we would be more than happy to do it.
Because cleft palate, that can be changed, that can have surgery for that. Did they tell you these things, or are these things that y'all just pulled out of your head?
As in, it was a list they gave us. Yeah, it was a list they gave us to circle.
Okay. And then they just put it in this paragraph that way. Okay. Okay. Anybody else?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Sorry, Ms. Fanny, go on.
Just a quick follow-up. Mr. Melby,
yes, ma'am.
When you originally decided to do this home study with your wife, and did you communicate with the department often about this? About your decision?
Which decision?
To foster Camden.
Can you repeat the question one more time?
Yes, sir. When you made the decision with your wife to foster Camden or have Camden in your home, did you communicate with the department in Texas often about this decision and what this would entail?
Yes. Me and my wife did communicate with them.
Okay. And did you ever indicate to the department that you would be living with your in-laws for quite some time?
Yeah, we said we were living with them as a current.
Okay.
They knew that was clear. We did the home study on the current home, and then when we got the other house fixed, we were needing a new home study.
Did you indicate to the Department of Family and Protective Services and to the person doing the home study that it would be about 2 or 3 months before you were able to move into that trailer? Yes, on the property? Okay. Yes. And when in fact it's going to take quite a bit longer, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'll pass the witness.
I have a follow-up, Judge, too, real quick. Let's talk a little bit about that. Garrett, did you lie to the department? Did you on purpose say, I'm going to be there in 2 months, and you knew in your mind it'd be 6?
No, ma'am. We did not understand that the water company would not turn it on immediately.
So when did you find that out?
We found that out probably a month and a half, a couple months later.
And did you know that it was important to call the state immediately? And was it a part of what you were thinking to say, hey, by the way, it's going to be slower?
No, ma'am.
But every time you've been asked about it, you told the truth now, right?
Yes,
right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you've gone and gotten a letter and you've gotten information, and have you gotten yourself moved up higher on the priority list, it sounds like. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
In some report that was provided, I believe it may have been a CASA report, they said they had concerns about your health. Do you have any health concerns, Garrett?
I have no health problems.
So you're not currently no medications for anything in particular?
No, ma'am.
And no history of hospitalizations?
Correct, no, ma'am.
Any idea where they would have come up with that inference or that idea?
I'm not sure. All my tests have been good. My blood work's good. I would have no idea where they came up with that.
Okay, I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Anybody else? Sir, what are y'all not, this is kind of a convoluted question, okay? If y'all don't get Camden to live with y'all, are y'all staying where y'all are at, or y'all moving the mobile home anyway?
We're going to stay where we're at.
Okay. So basically you're waiting to see if you get Camden before you go to the mobile home.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't think you understand what she's saying.
What?
No. She's asking if we're still going to move into the mobile home if we don't get Camden.
Yeah, can you repeat that? May have misunderstood.
Are y'all gonna move to the mobile home regardless, whether you have Camden or not?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Sorry, I thought you were saying move the mobile home off the property.
No. I understand what the mobile home is. I just want to know, that y'all were waiting to get Camden there before you moved, or that's your plan to move there anyway?
Yes, ma'am. We're just going to move to the mobile home, no matter what.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you, sir. Anybody else? Okay, next witness, Ms. Lang.
Gotta get through this one fast, Judge, and maybe we'll get it done. I'll be calling Ms. Shelby if you'll state your name.
There's only 6 minutes left, and I got to hear from everybody too.
Okay. All
So,
right.
I don't know how long and I'm done. I'm turning it off at 1:30.
Okay,
So
Judge.
we'll do it another day.
Okay, Judge. Shelby, will you state your name, please?
Milby.
And your last name, please.
Milby.
I'm sorry, somebody just walked in, I got distracted. I'm just gonna cut to this chase, Shelby. You've heard a lot of testimony today. Can you describe your relationship with Becca and her family?
Yes, ma'am. Growing up, I went to youth group with Alec Hasty, her brother. He was over at my house a lot. We would go to academy, things like that.
Right. And then was Becca around for that?
I saw her occasionally, not super often.
Mm-hmm.
I did.
You keep in touch with Alex still?
Yes.
How about any of her other siblings?
I was never close to any of her other siblings.
What about the woman named Danielle?
I'm very close to Danielle.
And is Danielle like a mother to Becca?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
And more a mother than her real mother. Is that right from what you've seen?
Yes, ma'am, unfortunately.
Okay. And you finished high school, is that right?
Yes, I did.
Huh?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And do you have any college?
I briefly went to cosmetology school, but I dropped out.
Okay. You were very vulnerable and talked a lot about your mental health and physical health concerns. Can you explain why Dr. Hightower wrote in his summary in the home study that you had lupus? Where did that come from?
When I was first starting to see him, I said, I'm not sure if it's lupus or rheumatoid arthritis. And so he wrote it down in my chart and said, we'll send you off to a specialist for them to test and figure out what the case is.
Had he done any testing on you?
I need the lawyers and Casa to go to breakout.
Okay, thank you, Judge.
And send us. Okay, y'all, I hate to do this, but I gotta go to the hospital. And Ms. Lang they're waiting on her for another court. So we just got a bunch of stuff going on. I didn't have any clue this was gonna take this long. We're gonna be in recess again until 8 a.m. I know I'm not a morning person. I hate it too. 8 a.m. on July the 5th. Oh man, that's after fireworks. Nah, we're changing it to 9. No, that's gross. Yeah, 9 o'clock's still gross, but we're going to change it to 9 o'clock. And y'all do not feel like you have to dress up. Okay. Miss Lane's going to play in a golf tournament that day. Just wear whatever. You don't have to put on makeup. I don't care. I might have a hair and a ponytail. I don't know. It doesn't.
Don't be giving me permission to wear PJs to court, Judge.
Well, y'all, I can't ever tell what y'all have on, or what you don't have on. That's a better thing. But anyway, y'all wear whatever, but, just look okay, but don't feel like you have to dress up. Okay. Okay. So we'll see y'all at 9 on July 5th. Okay.
Thank you, Judge.
Sorry. Everybody just has a bunch of questions, so we'll be back. Thanks. We'll be in recess. Bye. Okay. The last witness that I took notes on was Garrett. Is that where we ended?
Yes, Your Honor. I was Ms. Shelby will be next. And Your Honor, if I may, just a little bit of housekeeping. I'd shared before that I thought I only had one more witness. I would like to call also Ms. Danielle Ditto after we finish with Becca. And then I did submit 3 more exhibits. I believe I managed under the time frame. I'd ask if the parties have any objection to them, and if not, then that helps us speed things along if we can stipulate and just refer to them without projecting them. But if the court wants us to project them, we can certainly share screen and do that.
I've had hearings and kid visits every single day this week, so I have to admit I haven't looked at them.
It's exhibits.
I don't have them because stuff gets printed out on Fridays, but I don't care. We can screen share if we need to.
Okay, I'm prepared to do that, Judge. So,
why don't you just tell Ms. Ward what they are? I'm sure she probably will be okay.
Right. So Exhibit 12 is just a re-urging of the one I didn't get the deadline on for the evacuation plan that's been provided to the Oklahoma DFPS. Also, Exhibit 13A through H is the remodel activities that were also provided 2 weeks ago And I re-urged them on this for this case. And the last one would be just an email from 2018. And would not be offering it for the truth of the matter asserted, simply to show communication between Garrett and Shelby with Caring Hearts out of Burnett, Texas, whenever they were working on their licensure. That's Exhibit 14.
I don't think I'm going to have an issue with, I'm unclear on the relevance of 14, but the others I don't have an issue with. I might need more understanding of 14.
Not a problem.
You know, I'm going through, like, I have notes. Judge, I told you this at one of my last hearings. I'm like, I have so many cases that are reset mid-hearing that I have notes on various notepads of various hearings, and I'm digging through all of them. I'm like, I can't find my notes. So
That's okay. I see a picture on Hasty and Ditto, but I don't see Miss Hasty.
Danielle, can y'all hear us now?
No, they went dark. Anybody else see him?
I can see a picture of there's Danielle moving now. We need to have Becca in the screen, please.
I feel like Garrett and Shelby may be frozen as well.
There they are. Becca, there's Becca, Judge.
Okay. Okay, Miss Lane, you may begin.
Thank you, Judge. I'll call Shelby Milby. So Shelby, you want to state your name for the record?
Shelby Milby.
Okay. So it's been a little bit of time since we left, and we heard from Garrett on the status of the mobile home next to your mom and dad's home. Can you give us an update on the water situation?
Yes, ma'am. The water, they said it'll be done no later than July 19th.
And who notified you of that?
The water company that we use here.
Okay, and that's to the best of your knowledge, and could that possibly change?
They could do it sooner.
Okay.
No longer, no later.
And then is there HVAC hooked up to your to the other home?
No, ma'am, not at this time, but they said they will be here about Wednesday the 10th to hook it up.
Okay, but is that also card and stone and pinky sworn too, or there's a chance it could move to a different date?
There's a chance they can move it if something happens on their part, but we're good on our part.
Okay. And let me ask you, over at in the home you're living in now that's been approved under the home study, is there a fenced yard?
Yes, ma'am, in the backyard it is fenced.
Okay. And is it possible to secure the gate on that so that a young toddler could not open it and get out?
Yes, I believe there's 2 different locks on it.
Okay. And have you guys added anything else to the property to manage storms or anything like that, given that you're in Oklahoma?
Last week we got a tornado shelter installed.
Okay. And have you and Garrett done any additional training to help you prepare to take care of Camden?
We both just took a first aid, CPR, and AED class and got our license in it.
Okay. So, Shelby, there have been some testimony and some confusion about the home study and things that were reported and things that your mom or Garrett have said in the past. So let's just clarify. How is it that Dr. Hightower reported that you have lupus when your nurse practitioner, Ms. Stephanie, said you do not?
So Dr. Hightower is my primary care physician, and I told him, I don't know, I'm thinking it's lupus or RA. So he just wrote them both down and said, we're going to send you to the rheumatologist for her to do the testing. So that's why they're on his chart.
Did he conduct any tests for you?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
But did the rheumatologist conduct those tests?
Yes, ma'am, she did.
And have you seen him since that assessment that he did for the home study?
No, I've not had a reason to go.
Okay. And then there was a question, I believe the state brought it up, that perhaps you were untruthful about your Social Security benefits. And in the home study, there's on page 8, it says that you make $943 in Social Security income. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
But on page 5, it says you don't collect any Social Security benefits. Did you lie and say you do not?
No, ma'am, I did not. I'm not sure why it's like that.
Okay. But the truth is indicated on page 8 of the home study that you do draw Social Security benefits, right?
Yes.
Okay. And are you currently in counseling of any sort?
I am.
And tell us about what type of counseling are you in?
It's for me to just deal with the new challenges of a new diagnosis, the RA, the rheumatoid arthritis.
How often do you see your counselor?
I see her twice a month.
And do you take any medications to assist with anything that's related to coping and dealing with this?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
And what are they?
They are duloxetine and busprone.
And who prescribes those for you?
Dr. Hightower does.
Okay. And have you taken medication to assist with, moods and things like that over the course of your life?
Yes, ma'am. As a young teenager.
Okay. But they've been prescribed by a physician and overseen by a physician. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you ever attempted suicide, Shelby?
No, ma'am, I have not.
Have you ever been hospitalized for mental health concern?
No, ma'am.
Has law enforcement ever been called to your home or somebody else's home because of something related to your behavior or your mental health state?
No, ma'am.
So did you attempt to try to get your notes from your therapist?
I did.
And what were you told?
She does not like to give them out. She won't give them out.
Okay. More of a policy thing that she cannot. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And where do they work? What is the name of that agency?
Wilson Psychological Associates in Bartlesville, Oklahoma.
Okay. And is there anything about your mental health that should give the court concern about your ability to take care of Camden?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Do you get up every day and manage your household?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay. And you're solely independent, you drive?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
And then you have the health concerns. We've talked about that, and the nurse practitioner shared your clinical background. How often do you follow up with your rheumatologist?
Every 3 months.
Okay. And prior to that, were you a responsible patient? Did you seek follow-up with your physicians on a regular basis?
Ma'am.
Are you currently being seen in Oklahoma?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
And prior to that, where were you seen?
I was seen in Texas.
Okay. You ever had to go to the hospital for an emergency related to your diabetes?
No, ma'am.
And can you describe to the court how your diabetes is monitored on a daily basis?
So I have a constant glucose monitor. I wear it on my arm, and it sends my blood sugars to my phone, my mom's phone, and Garrett's phone. So anytime it goes low or high, they immediately get notifications, and we tend to what needs to be done.
Okay. And have you ever blacked out? No hospitalizations or anything related to that. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about your experience with children. I believe in the CASA report, it indicated that the parties have limited experience with children. So have you taken care of newborns before?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Go ahead.
Multiple of them.
Okay. Garrett shared in his testimony, his sister had lived with y'all for a while. How many children did she have?
She has one.
And how old was that child when the child lived with you?
It was a newborn to a year-old.
And was she at home with the child, or were you there?
She was at home, but I helped her care for him.
Okay. Were there times when you were left alone with him?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How about now? Are you around children now?
Yes, we're around a lot of children.
Okay.
We're around Danielle's grandchildren stuff, and they range from 8 months to 10 years old.
Okay. So when you say you're around them, do you spend time with them one-on-one?
Yes, ma'am. We give them terms of taking them out to go to the park, go out to eat, go fishing, fun stuff like that.
So do you go pick them up and take them away from Danielle's home?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And have y'all been doing that only since this case started, or did this go on before this case started?
Before the case.
Okay. And you had shared before your desire to adopt started how many years ago?
Since I was 16, I always knew I would adopt.
Okay. But you'd made efforts to go through licensure, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And when was that?
It was 2018.
And who was that with?
The Caring Hearts in Burnett.
Okay. And Your Honor, I'd like to offer Exhibit 14 if Ms. Ward is okay with that. That would be the basis.
If you can just put it on the screen, Becky, it's really hard for me to go back and forth from Zoom to another window and look for it. So if you could put it on the screen, and then I can look at it, and I'm sure I won't object, but.
Not a problem. Let me see if I can manage this, you guys. Here you go. And then this is just the date, the September 2018, and they are with Caring Hearts. I'm not talking about what was talked about in the letter.
I have no objection, Your Honor.
Ms. Vanna?
No objection.
Okay. Respondents, I don't even know what number that is.
14, Your Honor.
14, Judge.
Okay, respondents 14 submitted.
So, I believe Garrett shared why y'all didn't follow through, but Shelby, what in your words, why did y'all not follow through with getting your licensure at that time?
Garrett's sister moved in with us, and Emmanuel moved in with us, so we no longer had room for any extra children.
Okay. Oh, you said Emmanuel moved in. So is that another child that you helped take care of?
Yes, ma'am.
And who is that?
It's Emily.
Okay. And how old was she at that time?
She was, I believe she was 8 months old at that time.
And was Emmanuel working?
Yes, he was.
So were you left home with Emily on your own at that time? Or were you a primary caregiver for Emily?
I was with her a lot, yes.
And did she recently come visit you guys?
She did. Last month she stayed a week with us.
Okay. And does that happen often?
Yeah, fairly often, at least once usually in the summer, yes.
So every year Emily comes and spends time with just you and Garrett?
Either she comes up here or we go down there, but we like to be a part of her life.
Even before this case, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay. Is your home set up today for Camden to be, if the court were to find that it's his best interest and y'all are a safe and appropriate home, could Camden come to your home today?
Yes, ma'am. We do have everything set up.
Okay. And where is it set up?
The crib is in our room, and then we have car seats and all the plug outlets and all of that stuff.
Okay. And then whenever he reaches a certain age under the licensing guidelines, y'all would have to move into the washroom or the other room, not the washroom, but the other room, and you're prepared to do that, right?
Absolutely.
Excuse me?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
Okay. And so the Casas came and visited your home. Did they see all those rooms?
Yes, ma'am, they did.
Okay, so they're familiar with the size of the room you would move to whenever Camden has to have a room of his own. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So on your home study, you indicated that there were certain types of children or children with special needs that y'all weren't able to take care of. Can you explain why y'all marked those and what that was about?
The only reason we marked those is because it was a questionnaire for foster children we thought we could take care of. And we said we'd be willing to take them in, but we would need more teaching of how to work with those children with conditions.
So not that you just weren't ever going to take those types of children, you just didn't feel equipped to handle them at that time when you did that questionnaire. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Tell me about your contact with Becca right now.
I talk to her every once in a while through text. We see her maybe 3 times a month when we visit over at Danielle's, but she's only been over here to the big house 3 times total.
Okay. And you said over at Danielle's. Tell me about your relationship with Danielle.
We are very close. We go over there once or twice a week, play games, and we hang out, we watch a movie.
Who is she to you guys?
She's a close family friend. We've known her since I was 15.
And where were you living at that time?
Dam, Texas.
Okay. How did you know her through school, church? How did y'all know her?
My parents were the youth leaders at Pack Settle Fellowship, and her kids attended the youth group. So we met her that way.
Okay. And have y'all stayed in touch over the years?
Definitely. Yes, ma'am.
And where does she live now?
She lives in Dewey, Oklahoma, which is about 45 minutes from us.
And did she know anybody else in y'all's area besides you guys when she moved out there?
Oh, ma'am.
Okay. And you said you spend time with her on is it a weekly basis?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay. So how is it that you and Garrett became involved in Camden's life?
About Thanksgiving of last year, Becca said she would like us to adopt her baby. And we said absolutely. And we've been working on the process ever since then.
Okay. Was she participating in any of your game nights or anything? How were you around her?
Yes, we saw her occasionally when we go over to play games. She was newly there, and so she lives at Summer's house, which was a couple streets down at the time.
And who is Summer?
That is Danielle Ditto's daughter.
Is Becca friends with Summer?
Yes, ma'am. They've been friends, I believe, most of their life.
And does she have a relationship with Danielle?
Yes, she does.
Okay. Would you say it's a close relationship, or how do you know?
With Becca and Danielle?
Uh-huh.
She's very close. She's like a mother figure.
Okay. There was a course in this case where, you had stepped up and wanted to be considered for placement for Camden. And I don't know who, it was an assumption, I believe, that you guys didn't want to have in-person visits with Camden, not Cameron, with Camden. Tell us about that.
We didn't really want to overwhelm him. I understand that seems silly now, but I did say we would like to do Zoom calls. Audrey said she would get back to me about it, and I've yet to hear back.
Okay. But it wasn't, what if you had to say that again now, what would you be asking for?
Definitely to see him, to spend time with him.
And when you say you didn't want to overwhelm him, what were you thinking?
I just thought bringing these new people in, it would just be a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I understand it sounds silly now, but at the time I thought it was in his best interest to not just bring all these new people in. I wanted to do it slowly.
Okay. And then was there a time when you thought you were actually going to get to go meet Camden?
Yes, ma'am. When Becca went down for visitation in Texas, we were supposed to get to see him, but a week before, Audrey told me that was no longer a possibility.
Okay. Was there any explanation provided?
She just said we weren't allowed to, that it just needed to be Becca.
Okay. But did you continue on down to Texas anyway?
Yes, ma'am, we did.
Okay. And what happened at that visit?
The morning before, Becca woke up really sick and said she needs to go to the ER, so I took her there. And then when I picked her up, they gave her medicine she had a reaction to, and it caused her to be restless and erratic. And so we let the day pass on, and she didn't get any better. So I decided it was probably best for her to not be around Camden at that time for his safety.
And did you notify anyone?
Yes, ma'am. I notified you and Audrey.
Okay. And so nobody saw Camden during that visit?
No, ma'am. Before we left, we did drop off a book and a toy, but we were not able to see him.
Okay. Have you had any telephone calls or any photos provided to you or anything after you'd asked to be considered for placement with him?
No, ma'am. Well, okay. And Audrey sent us, not Audrey. Andrea sent us a few photos, but beyond that, I asked CASA if we could have photos, and they said we would have to wait until our home study was approved.
And so after your home study was approved, have you received any photos?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So, and CASA did come to your home, is that right?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay. And what time of day was that?
I believe it was 7 p.m.
And how long did they stay?
We stayed until 9.
Okay. And how much notice did you have before they showed up?
They called us an hour before and said they would be here.
Okay. What was the spirit of that visit?
It felt like we were treated like we had done something wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but were you able to answer questions while they were there?
We tried, but we were cut off a lot.
Okay. Did you show them your house, and were you fully revealing? Was there anything you felt like you didn't disclose?
No, ma'am. We showed them all through the house, all the yard, the backyard, all of it.
Okay. And did you know if they went anywhere after they left your house?
They said they were going to visit Becca afterwards.
Okay. Did you call Becca and tell her they're on their way?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Okay. Did they ask you to?
No, ma'am, they did not.
Okay. You have been to every hearing that we've had in this case, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And if the court were to say that it's in Camden's best interest and you guys are appropriate, are y'all ready for Camden to come and stay with y'all forever and ever, amen, today?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
I do. If Agata doesn't, I think she unmuted at the same time as me.
Go ahead, Carrie, go first.
Okay. So I'm just kind of going through my notes. So you said, so I know you have multiple diagnoses, autoimmune issues with rheumatoid arthritis and type 1 diabetes. Are there any other autoimmune issues?
No, ma'am, just those two.
Okay. With Ms. Lang, you mentioned that you take duloxetine and buspirone. I never say that prescription correctly, buspirone or however you say it. What other medications are you currently taking?
I have a long list, but I have it here if you'd like me to tell you.
Yeah, let me switch to another page if it's a long list. Okay.
Okay, I take buspirone, Cimzia, D3
Can you
vitamin.
spell, sorry, I might need you to spell some things. Cimzia?
Cimzia.
And what's that for?
That is my immunosuppressant. I take it every 2 weeks.
And that's for, I'm assuming for the rheumatoid arthritis. Okay. Okay. Go on to the next one and then pause.
Okay, vitamin D3.
Well, if you don't have to pause, we know what you take that for.
Dicyclomine.
Okay. How do you spell that?
DICYCLOMINE.
Okay. And what's that for?
For abdominal cramping. It's like a stomach muscle relaxer pretty much.
What side effects does that have?
I don't get any side effects from that medicine.
Okay. What about the Cynthia? Does it have any side effects?
No, ma'am.
What's the abdominal cramping caused by? Is that part of the rheumatoid arthritis?
No, that is from exocrine pancreatic insufficiency. Well, it's not from that. They assume it might be IBS. They're not really sure. They've not diagnosed me with anything.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. What's the next medication?
Duloxetine.
Rheumatoid arthritis as well. And I'm assuming you weren't on all of the immunosuppressants and whatnot for just the type 1 diabetes. Is that right?
It's mainly, it is for the rheumatoid arthritis.
I know type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune issue, but from what I've seen, they treat it more directly than just trying to suppress your whole immune system. Is that what you see as well? Okay. Okay. And so after the hydroxy, whatever, what side effects does that have?
I do not get any side effects from that.
Okay.
Delivered via an insulin pump.
I was going to ask about that. You said you wear the monitor and you also wear an insulin pump then?
Yes, ma'am. And they're actually a closed loop system. So
I was going to ask, do they communicate with each other? Okay. That's awesome. The new technology is amazing. I have a friend and colleague who has a similar issue and told me all about it.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool that it pretty much replaces what your body was supposed to be doing, doesn't it?
Awesome. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so you have an insulin pump, makes things easier. You were very inclusive. I probably would have left off vitamin D and Zyrtec if I had been asked those questions, but we all appreciate the thoroughness, I'm sure. I guess some people, do you take Zyrtec at night or in the day?
Take it during the day.
Does it make you sleepy? It doesn't make me sleepy, but it makes other people sleepy.
Not thankfully.
Okay.
I'm miserable without it.
Right. No, I live in Austin. It's constant allergies here. And I try not to take it, but then I regret it. So there you go. So do you have any side effects from any, it's a laundry list of medications and the only side effects that you really listed was stomach upset. Do any of your medications cause any side effects other than the stomach upset?
Beyond the stomach upset and the helping me fall asleep faster, I really don't have any other side effects.
Okay. When were you first diagnosed with the rheumatoid arthritis? I wasn't clear about that.
I believe it was 2021.
Okay. What symptoms were you having at that time?
Joint pain in my hands, hips, shoulders, all the joints really.
So joint pain and inflammation, went to the physician and he sent you to the rheumatoid arthritis?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay. I was curious and I was like, well, that's not a question really that matters. So then, do the medications help?
They do. They do make a big difference.
Okay. What are you on SSI for?
For depression and anxiety.
So I guess I'm confused about the depression and anxiety. If it's so severe that you cannot work, but it's not impeding your day-to-day life. Can you explain that a little bit better?
It's more so social anxiety. So working with a bunch of new people is a little bit overwhelming for me, but I've learned really well how to cope with it and how to handle it differently than I did before.
So do you feel like, I think parenting also, it could be anxiety provoking. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think just the act of parenting would be anxiety provoking, but how are you going to manage that?
I believe I read to cope with it, and I've learned very healthy ways to cope with it, taking a step away. Obviously, we would not leave Camden just alone by himself. Garrett would step in, or my mom if I needed a break. But being a mother has something that I've always wanted to be. So I've done everything I can to learn how to properly work with children, how their brains work and all of that. So I do feel pretty well equipped for it. And I know you can't be greatly for it. It's challenging.
Right, right. So, and SSI law isn't my area, so other people may know this, but do they review periodically to determine if you're still disabled?
I believe it's every 5 years, 1 year. I've heard both. But I
Okay.
think years.
So when was the last time they reviewed it for you?
I just got SSI a year and a half ago, I think. And I more so applied for the rheumatoid arthritis and stuff, but they approved it because of my anxiety. So I was a little confused by it, but I wasn't really going to argue.
Okay. So if the plan is, I'm assuming the plan is you would be stay-home mom.
Yes, ma'am.
Garrett would continue to work in the jobs that he's doing, that I think he already testified to. And so what happens if, for example, you have an anxiety attack and you're at home being a stay-home mom, and I would assume nobody else is home, right?
There's often somebody else here, but there's very rarely times I'm alone.
When was the last time you had an anxiety attack?
I would say 2.5 years. It's been a while. Garrett does work at home where we are at this time, and so do my parents, which is why we're all home together.
Okay. And let's see. Okay, there were just some answers you gave during your testimony that I really just didn't hear and wanted some clarification on. You said you stopped the process of becoming an adoptive parent when you were in Burnett because someone and then someone else moved in. Will you say their names again?
Amanda, Garrett's sister, and then Emmanuel, Garrett's friend from high school or school.
Okay. So what happens if you have a child and somebody needs to move in?
It would depend on if we think they're, okay to be around the child, safe for the child. If we had a spare room, we would let them stay until they could get back on their feet. But
Okay.
child safety would be our top priority.
Okay. And I'm sorry about the thumping noise. My dog is chewing on a bone, and if I take it away, he'll find something noisier. So
I can't even hear it.
I hear it. I heard y'all squeaky ball earlier, and I was like, oh, I'm glad that's going to be me next, I'm sure. None of us are offended by dogs here, though. So there you go. So now you said early on, you didn't want in-person visits with Camden because you didn't want to overwhelm him. Don't you think it would be overwhelming for him to move in with strangers?
Yes, absolutely.
Don't you think that, you said you wanted to do it more slowly. Don't you think that that's what visits would have accomplished?
Yes, I do.
Does it make sense to not do visits to avoid overwhelming him?
Yes, it does not make sense. And I see that now.
Okay. Because he's never met you, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so really what you're asking the court to do is to remove him from a placement where he's bonded and move him in with you. And I appreciate that you want to adopt a child, but don't you think that there might be other children out there that might need your help that don't have a permanent place where they could stay?
Yes, ma'am. I do. We are very attached to Camden, as I'm sure all of us are. We want him to be close to Becca so that he can grow up being able to spend time with his mother. If this does not work out with Camden, we will be adopting and fostering other children, but Camden is very precious to us.
Sure. So, well, let's talk about that attempted visit. It was a few months ago now. And when you guys, I assume you guys rode with Becca to Texas for her visit. Is that right?
Yeah, we took her down to Texas. Yes, ma'am.
You said she woke up in the morning and she was sick. What kind of sick was she?
She was vomiting profusely and she was crying in pain in the bathroom. And she
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And she came and woke me up and said, something's wrong. I need to go to the ER.
Okay. If you know the answer to this question, did that turn out to be a physical problem or a related to a mental health problem with physiological symptoms, if that makes sense.
I believe it's a bit of both. She was having really bad acid reflux, but she was out of her meds for, I think it was a week at that time. And so I think it just all played negatively against her.
So, I mean, it's concerning to me that the one time that she was going to see her child in person, this happened where she was physically unwell and had to go to the hospital. If it raises to that level of anxiety, does it seem realistic to you that she would play a role in Camden's life if he lived with you?
I do believe she will play a role. I think it had more to do with everyone else being there. That was overwhelming to her. And she learned that we wouldn't be able to be there with her. And I think she as well has social anxiety. So I think it was just very stressful for her. But I do believe that it would be easier on her to visit Camden if he was with us.
Okay. Oh, when we went over your meds, I forgot to ask you, do you use medicinal marijuana ever?
No, ma'am, never.
Okay. Does anyone else in your household that you know of?
No, ma'am. No one has ever smoked weed here.
Well, I'm also asking about gummies and.
Oh, yes,
brown.
no, none of it. Sorry,
Okay.
I'm not like hip with all that. So I just put it together.
Well, I just think if I was going to do it, I would be taking gummies. So that smoking isn't desirable. So yeah, and I'm like, it's legal, so you can just go and buy gummies and not stink up your house and everything else. So okay, and so let's see, what else do I have? So I know that you first met. There's just too many Rebecca's, Becky's, all the things. So I'm just gonna say Miss Hasty. You first met Miss Hasty back in elementary school, is that right?
I think she was in junior high when we met. I'm
Okay.
about 4 years younger than her, I believe. And we were attending the same church. I was homeschooled, so I didn't attend the school, but we were attending the same church.
Okay, so she's about 3 years older than you?
Yes, ma'am.
And obviously, Facebook world, we've all reconnected and all of that. So is that, you guys were just kind of Facebook friends for all this time?
Yeah.
Okay, so when do you think until she moved to Oklahoma, when do you think the last time you saw her was?
It was probably 7 years, I would say, if not a little more.
Okay. And then what about other people in her family? Have you maintained communication with other people in her family?
We occasionally talk to Alec, which is her brother, but he's very busy becoming a doctor. He's newly married.
Okay. And so around when did you begin engaging with her on Facebook?
I would say about the time we met at church.
In Oklahoma or in Burnett?
Burnett.
Okay. So when you were kids?
Yes.
See, I'm old, so that seems weird to me to have Facebook friended somebody when I was a kid, because that wasn't a thing. So I have to remind myself not everybody's old. So, and all the other old folks on here are laughing because they're thinking the same thing. So you've just been Facebook friends this whole time?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay. Do you engage with each other on Facebook?
Not really. We see each other's posts and we like them back and forth, but that's about it. We don't talk a super bunch.
Okay. And so then about 7 years, give or take, go by. She moves to Oklahoma, and from the sounds of it, she moved in with Danielle, your close family friend. Is that what happened?
She moved in with Summer, which is Danielle's daughter.
Gotcha. Okay. And so that's how y'all reconnected.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Ms. Van.
Miss Milby, can I ask you, when did you apply for SSI?
I want to say 2021. The first time or the second, because I applied in Texas and was approved then as well.
Okay. And is that when you were having your anxiety attacks and problems with depression? Is that about the time when you were having issues with your depression and anxiety?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you said that you have not had an anxiety attack for about 2.5 years?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
Okay. Have you tried obtaining a job?
Not since, I want to say 2018. That was the last time.
Okay. But you said that your anxiety is under control right now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. No further questions.
Ms. McClure? No. Ms. McCary, you have anything? No. Okay. Ms. Lang?
Just a couple of things to double back. Thank you, Judge. So how often do you see Becca now that she's up in Oklahoma?
I would say a couple times a month. When she, like, we're over at Danielle, so she may come out and say hello.
Mm-hmm. So the closer bond and knowledge is with Danielle. Is that fair to say? Okay. But Garrett, I believe, testified he went to school with Becca and knows her through school, and her brother as well. Is that right? Okay. And so if Becca were to be having some trouble with her mental health stability, what would be what would you do in terms of her access to Camden?
We would not allow her to see Camden until it was safe for him again. We would keep her updated on how he's doing, but we would not want to risk him harm of any kind.
Is that the same logic you used whenever y'all came down to Texas for her to visit with Camden?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
And what did you do then whenever you noticed that she was ill, and was she in a state where she needed to be around Camden?
No, ma'am.
And what did you do?
I contacted you and Audrey and said that it's not best for Camden to see Becca right now.
Have you ever been hospitalized for anything related to your mental illness, mental health concerns?
No, ma'am.
And you talked about you had quit. You were originally going to try to become licensed, and then you stopped because you had Emmanuel moved in with y'all. Is that right?
Yes, and Amanda, Garrett's sister.
Okay. And how long ago was that?
That was in 2019.
Okay.
Maybe it was right there in between those two.
So is that 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay. So is that something y'all typically do, allow folks to move in with y'all and kind of change your lifestyle around them?
No.
Okay. And do you have any intention of doing that? If Camden's allowed to come up and stay with you guys?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Okay. I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Anybody else?
Yes, Judge, one more question.
Okay.
Ms. Milby, if the court were to order you to come have in-person visits with Camden, would you do so?
Yes, we would be more than happy to do that.
Okay, no further questions.
Anybody else? Ma'am?
Yes, Your Honor.
I know it's probably listed in your home study, but we've had a couple different hearings on this, and I have it right in front of me. How much money do you get each month from on your SSI?
I get $943.
Okay. And how did you learn Miss Hasty was moving to Oklahoma?
Danielle was talking to my mother, and she said Becca's coming down and she needs some help.
Help? What does that mean?
Wasn't getting her back on the right track. Danielle was under the impression that she wanted to be reunified with Camden, so she was ready to assist with that. And then Becca told her I would like him to place him for adoption, and I'd like the Milbys to adopt him.
So the help meant with Camden, not which is like physically moving her there, stuff like that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Did y'all give her any money or help her move or do a U-Haul or anything like that?
We did not. I don't know if Danielle did, but we did not.
Did your parents that you're aware of?
No, ma'am, they have not.
Okay. You're telling me that your therapist would not give out your records?
Yes, ma'am. What was the last?
That's your stuff. Did she ask you if you would sign a release or anything like that?
She said per their business, they don't do things with the court because they feel it changes the interactions with the patient and the therapist.
Okay, Miss McClure's raising her hand. Her husband's a therapist. Go up, Miss McClure.
Judge, just throwing it out there. I know that when Cody was in practice, he did not necessarily give out his notes either, but he would very accommodatingly provide what's called a treatment summary. And the reason is because a note is a snapshot in time. It is a look at a date that the person came in, and this is what was talked about on that date. But a treatment summary can be over a 6-month period, a year, whatever the period is. And it talks about when they came in, these are what the problems were, and then we did this, and then we did that, and now this is where we stand. It's a more complete picture. And so sometimes a therapist might feel more comfortable doing something like that because it's a one and done. It's not an ongoing, and it's not a laborious thing as far as pull up all these records. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Okay, it's sort of like a report.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Did your therapist say anything about doing a report or writing a letter or anything like that? Or
She said what she's allowed to do is state the dates that I've been there. But beyond that, she said she wasn't allowed to release anything more.
okay.
I could try and ask again, but she's been pretty adamant, unfortunately.
Okay. Okay. The people that did the home study, it seems kind of, so the ladies that testified, y'all saw them, I think, on the first day we've been doing this, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Those weren't the folks that actually came out to y'all's house to ask y'all questions and stuff, right?
Emily, which was the main one that was speaking, asked us the first part of the home study, like the questionnaire part, and then someone else came and did like the investigation of the house.
Okay. And we haven't seen the second person, right?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, when you say investigation of the house, we're talking about the house that y'all are currently in right now, correct?
Big house, yes.
Remind me, did anybody from, I'm just going to call it CPS, y'all probably call it something different up there, but you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Remind me, did anybody go look in that other house, in that other mobile home, like further down the property?
CASA did.
Did no CPS people did? Or those home study people?
No, Texas had asked for the study of this house, the big house, so they said they didn't need to do that one at this time.
Okay. Okay. If Camden was placed with y'all, I don't know if he's going to be or not, but if he is placed with y'all, you could, if Miss Hasty shows up, you could would you feel comfortable calling law and saying, ma'am, she has a trespass, she's not supposed to be around here, anything like that?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
Okay. If he were to be placed with y'all, would y'all supervise visitation with mom if she had any?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
And would you allow it to be on FaceTime so other people could observe it?
I think whatever the court would ask of us is what we would do.
Okay.
So if they wanted people to observe, then yes.
And you would give accurate reports, correct?
Yes, Your Honor, absolutely.
What if I said, okay, y'all aren't going to supervise, we got to go to some CPS office or something? Could y'all do that?
Absolutely.
If Garrett's at work and you were needing to call Camden to a doctor or, to a visit with Miss Hasty or somewhere like that, can you do that by yourself?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. How far away are y'all from, where do y'all grocery shop? How far away is that?
I want to say it's about 10 minutes from where we are. It's a little store.
So it's close.
Yes, yes. Ma'am.
And when y'all want to go do something like go on date night or go to a movie or go to Walmart or something like that, how far away is that?
It's about 35 minutes.
Okay. So just sort of like living up here.
Yes, definitely.
Unless you're Marble Falls. Okay.
Yeah.
Where are how far away are your doctors?
They range from 35 minutes to about an hour.
Wait, it sounds to me like 35 minutes is the closest big town. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And what's the name of that town?
It's Bartlesville.
Bartlesville. Okay. I've heard of it, but don't know anything about it. Is that where like pediatricians and stuff like that would be for Camden?
Yes. Yes, Your Honor.
Do you know what town the closest CPS office is?
I believe it's in Bartlesville.
Okay. Is that the same county that y'all live in?
We live in Nowata County, and that's Washington County.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions, Ms. Milby? No? Okay, thank you. Next witness, Ms. Lang.
Yes, Your Honor, I'll call Danielle Ditto.
She's still here.
She's sitting next to Becca. I hope they're not frozen. They look like they're frozen. Oh, there we go. Yay. Danielle, can you put the screen on your face, please?
I'm trying to. I can hear everything and see y'all, but my screen looks frozen.
It is.
Frozen. Looks frozen to me too.
Judge,
Should I log out and log? I'm not sure what y'all would like me to do.
You probably need to see her.
Okay, Danielle, perhaps log out and come back in.
Yes, ma'am, right now. Yes, ma'am.
All right, can you state your name for the record, please?
Danielle Ditto.
Okay. And Danielle, you've visited with us before in the court, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
In fact, have you been at every hearing we've had for Becca?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you've shared with us before that you have a disability, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you describe quickly what that disability is?
Yes, ma'am. I have lumbar sacroiliitis and CRPS, so I don't have a large portion of my spine, and I don't walk, so I use a wheelchair.
And how long have you been wheelchair bound?
I was born with my birth defect. I used crutches until I was about 23. I'm 49 now, and I've been pretty much in a wheelchair since then.
Okay. And if you, do you have a little one that you've adopted?
Yes, ma'am. She's 3 years old.
Okay. And so, and you were in a wheelchair when you got her, is that right?
Yes, ma'am. And I raised 3 children of my own as well.
Okay. All right. And so let's talk a little bit about your relationship to Becca and her family. How do you know Becca?
So Becca's mother and I met when we were really young. Becca was probably 5, and my oldest daughter Summer was 4, and they went to a Head Start class.
So now, what is Becca's mother's name?
Christine. I call her Christy, but she's known as Christine.
Okay. Did you guys, were you ever in the Marble Falls Women's Shelter?
Yes, ma'am. That's initially how we met. We were in the shelter together, and our rooms joined to one bathroom, and that's how we met.
Was that a family violence shelter?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
And how long ago was that?
Oh, goodness. Becca's 31 and she was 6, so quite a few years ago.
Okay. So over, I guess, 20, more than that, more than 25 years ago?
Yes, ma'am.
So, okay. And so, are you still with the same person you were with at that time when you were in the women's shelter?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And so y'all became friends. Did y'all continue your friendship after you'd been at the shelter together?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, we left the shelter together and moved in together. And so then she worked and I stayed home and took care of the children. We just kind of helped each other that way.
Okay. And how long did you do that?
We lived together for about a year and a half.
Okay, let's go through who all the children were. And which children did you have at that time?
I had Summer and Zachary Ditto at that time.
And how old were they?
Summer was 5 and Zachary was 4.
And then what children did Christina have or Christy have?
She had Becca, Alex, Sarah, and Ryan.
So 4 children. There's a total of 6 children in that house?
Yes, ma'am.
And you took care of them while Christina worked?
Yes, ma'am.
And were you in a wheelchair at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So over the course of time, what happened that y'all quit living together?
Christine had started dating someone that I did not feel was safe or appropriate around the children. And I couldn't make choices for her children, so I made choices for my own children.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, my grandmother needed to move in with my mom to have a little bit more help from my mom. And so I was allowed to move into my grandmother's house in Granite Shoals at that time.
Okay. And did Christina move with you?
Not then. She moved with me not too long after that.
What caused her to move in with you at that time?
She had gotten into a situation with CPS, and she was not supposed to any longer be around the man that she was with that I had left. And so she needed somewhere to go, basically. And so she came to my house.
Okay. And did she stay there?
She did.
Okay.
For a little while, yes, ma'am.
For how long?
I'd say about 6 months.
And did her children get removed?
Yes, ma'am.
So those 4 children you listed, Becca, Alex, Sarah, and Ryan, all got removed?
Yes, ma'am.
And did she get them back?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then what happened? Did she move out at that time?
She did. She moved out before she got them back. While she was working on it, she wanted to get her own place and get more stable. So she moved to Kingsland. And I then moved to Smithwick with my mom and my grandmother to kind of help out there.
So were Becca and Summer friends? They were close to the same age, is that right?
They were like sisters. Yes, ma'am.
Were they in the same grade though?
No, they were a year. Summer was held back a year. So they started out in the same grade, but Summer got held back. She's dyslexic and had learning disabilities.
Okay. So did they spend birthdays together?
Oh, we did almost every holiday together. Birthdays, Thanksgivings, Christmas, 4th of July. Sometimes we would just spend the night and have slumber parties and paint fingernails and we were like a family. We weren't blood, but we were family.
Was this even after Christina moved out?
Yes, ma'am. Even after she was in Kingsland and I was in Smithwick, my mom and grandmother paid her to come and clean the house. And we were all still she was there when my grandmother passed away. Rebecca and Ryan remember my grandmother. And when she passed, they called her, she was a real pale redhead. So they remembered the nickname and we were just very close. She was like their grandma too.
What did Becca call you and all those children call you that were Christina's kids?
Either Auntie or Aunt Danny. They called me Danny a lot, which is funny. Most kids don't get away with that, but we were just so close that I was like their aunt to them. And I made a promise. The reason Becca came here is I made a promise when all of these children were little, to her mother, that if ever in life any of her children ever needed me and I could ever be there for them, that I would be. So that's why when Becca reached out for help, I really wanted to help her, regardless of, I was under the understanding she wanted to come and get her own place and get a job and become more stable and have Camden reunited with her. And then we realized, Becca has a lot more work to do than that is really possible. So
let me ask you,
that's why we brought her.
We're going to get to that, I promise. So Becca and Summer went to junior high and high school together, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
In Llano?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did y'all go to church together?
We did. Yes, ma'am.
And did y'all go to church where the Milbys went, or did you know them through a church network?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so, did you know Garrett and Shelby back then?
Yes, ma'am. I knew Shelby better than Garrett. Garrett went to school with my children, but I did not spend as much time with him as I did with Shelby until they became engaged and married.
Okay. And how about Shelby's mom and dad? We've met them already. Deb and the Hacks, Deborah and Will. Did you know them?
Yes, ma'am. When our children were teenagers, we all went to the same church, to the same youth group. My children went through a loss that was pretty big for them, and the Hacks were there emotionally. And then eventually they got me coming to church and volunteering with the youth group, and we also then spent quite a bit of time together.
So, who is Zach?
Zach is my oldest son.
Is he friends with Shelby?
Yes.
Okay. And so, when you said, I guess Summer, we've already heard is your daughter. When Summer and Zach went through something, what was that happened to them?
So my ex-husband, their father, had a baby, and just before he turned 2, he passed away from pneumonia.
Okay. And so is that when y'all reached out to Shelby's parents, or they reached out to y'all and you started that closer relationship?
My children already were pretty close to them, but that's when my relationship with them got closer.
Okay. And how long ago was that, roughly?
Oh, I would say 15 years ago.
Okay. And have y'all remained friends since then?
Yes, they're a large part of the reason we moved to Oklahoma. Okay. They're the biggest reason we moved to Oklahoma. Yes, ma'am.
So, we've heard testimony from Ms. Hack that they moved up to Oklahoma a handful of years ago. I'm assuming 4 or 5 is, I think, my notes. Were you still living in the Kingsland area at that time, Buchanan Dam?
No, ma'am. I had already moved to Colorado. My mom had moved there and was raising my niece and nephew, and I went to go help her with that because my mom got cancer.
Okay. But did you stay in touch with the Hacks?
Oh, absolutely. They are a speed dial call in our home. We call them for lots of things. My children, we ask lots of, we're a Christian family, so we have lots of questions all the time about the Bible. What does it say about this or that? And the Hacks are really who we go to a lot. They have taught me a lot about how to find these answers myself. And they have taught me and my children quite a bit on how to handle things in the world that are stressful or hard. They're just someone we lean on for support, and we're just they're they're a lot family to us too, even though we're not blood. I think
you-
very.
So you said that's there why you moved. You live close to them now?
I live about 45 minutes from them, which to me is not close enough, but it's much closer than we were. And yes, it's Shelby and Garrett are a huge part of my children and my grandchildren's lives. They come and pick them up. Sometimes Shelby and Garrett, they'll come and pick up like two of my granddaughters, and they'll go to lunch and go to the park. And two of my grandchildren have been through trauma. And so Shelby is really good at talking with them. She's really educated. I think some of it comes from her counseling, possibly, but she studies a lot, child development and what children need and how to talk to children that have been through things. And my children talk to her more easily than they do their counselors.
So how old are these grandchildren you're talking about?
One of them, well, the ones that have been through trauma are 10 and 9, and but they are a part of all of their lives. And the oldest is 10, and our youngest right now is turning 1 in a few weeks, and then we have a new one coming, and so there are 7 of them in between there in all ages. My adopted daughter is 3, as I mentioned, and they come and get her. She has autism and she has sensory issues, and so they come and they help me with her quite a bit. Shelby is really good about helping me stay up with when my daughter went into sleep regression, 3-year-old sleep regression. I mean, my older children are 30, 29, and 21. It's been a minute. So I'm not understanding why this 3-year-old's having such a hard time sleeping. And Shelby did quite a bit of research and helped me figure out it's 3-year-old sleep regression. It's harder with children in autism, and helped me come up with things to try to help to soothe her and make that easier for her.
Let me ask you, did she do this all, has this only been since this case has begun?
Oh, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. Like I said, I have called and talked to Debbie. I mean, there's a lot of trials raising children sometimes, and especially in this world, And
Let
so
me
I
ask you a
called
couple, that's okay. Let me ask you some more questions. So you said, how long ago did you move to Oklahoma?
a year and a half ago.
And since for that whole time, have Shelby and Garrett been involved with these children's lives that whole time or only in the recent past?
Oh, no, the whole time. The whole time.
Do you still have any contact with Christine, Becca's mother?
I haven't spoke with her since Becca came to live here.
Okay. Do you have any contact with any of the rest of Becca's family besides Becca?
Yes, I'm very close to Callie, Becca's younger sister. I was there when Callie was born. I held her first. I speak to Alec from time to time. I'm very proud of him, but he's awfully busy, so we don't get to talk a whole lot. Her brother Justice and my son Jordan are 4 months apart, and they're both trying to become police officers. And so we communicate about that a little bit.
Okay. And she has a younger brother, Ryan, I believe. Do you know anything about Ryan?
I love Ryan very, very much. I have I spoke with him in Colorado.
Subject to relevance. I've given it several minutes and I'm failing to understand what the relevance of any of this questioning is.
Your Honor, if it please the court, this is the connection of Becca to this whole network in Oklahoma. Miss Danielle Ditto, as she testified earlier, she spent a lot of time with Becca from the time she was young. She's more of a mother figure than her own mother, and that's where we're going with this.
I think we would all concede that this is that the Milbys are a close family friend of a close family friend.
Yeah. I'm good with everything that's gone. We've heard testimony about. The one thing I want to know is, where is Becca's mom? I don't remember that.
She's in Llano. She doesn't really want anything to do with this situation.
What's her name?
Christine
Nopolis.
Okay, Miss Lane, let's move on.
Okay. So so you shared that Becca, how is it that she came to be up there in Oklahoma with you guys?
She reached out to my daughter Summer after she had Camden in the end of October, the first part of November, I think. And she had reached out to Summer and said, I am in a situation that I need help and I don't know what to do. I'm asking you at this time, would you guys pray for me? My daughter asked what was wrong. She explained, she wasn't in a good home environment and she wasn't sure what to do to get better.
Did she say she was pregnant? Did you know she was pregnant?
We did not know that she had been pregnant. No.
Okay. Does she have any other close family ties with anyone else that you're aware of?
No.
Okay. So did she move up to Oklahoma at that time?
Yes, ma'am. I bought her a bus ticket.
Okay. And did she move in with Summer or you?
She moved in with Summer. I didn't have room. I have a 3-year-old.
Okay. And so how did y'all find out about Camden and all of that?
When she reached out and said that she needed help, we found out then that she had had a baby, and that she told us that she had placed him with CPS at the time until she could figure out what to do and to get stable.
Okay. And so, how did it come that she asked, were you part of the conversation with Shelby for her to ask Shelby and Garrett to adopt the child? Were you involved in that at all?
I was involved actually. So I was under the understanding when Becca came here that she would want to be reunited with Camden, I thought maybe. And then not long after she was here, very briefly after she was here, she came to us and said that she didn't want anyone to be disappointed, but she felt like it was in Camden's best interest for him to be adopted. But she didn't know how that would look.
Was she the same Becca you knew when you had seen her more frequently? Had anything changed with her?
A lot has changed with her. She's really not the same Becca that I knew when she was young. I still love her just as much, but she's not the same.
What do you mean by that?
Becca was very outgoing in high school. She was the popular girl. She was very loved, very social. And now Becca is very quiet. She has a really hard time socially. She gets a lot of anxiety when we go out in public to do things. She sleeps a lot more from her medications. And she's just, her health with her stomach is a lot different than when she was younger. There's just a lot of things different about her.
Okay. So do you allow Belle, you adopted, it's your niece? Is that who Belle is? Your great niece?
Yes,
do you
ma'am.
Do you allow her mother to see the child?
No, ma'am.
Why is that?
Because her mother, when I adopted Bellamy, I set forth 3 rules that you would be, first of all, sober, second of all, stable, and third of all, consistent in contacting her, not just pop in and out whenever you feel like it. Bellamy deserves more consistency than that, and she deserves sobriety and stability. And her mother chooses to not do those things. And so, no, ma'am, she does not get to see her. If she did at any point decide to be sober, stable, and consistent, she could absolutely see her, but not a minute until then.
Okay. And do you have any concerns with Shelby and Garrett setting up those same parameters for Becca?
No, ma'am. Shelby, it was honestly a little bit hard for me to make those decisions because she is my niece, and she is my blood family. But at the end of the day, like Shelby told me 3 years ago when I got Bellamy, the child is what we are thriving for. That is what we work for. That is the most important, and not anyone else's feelings. And actually, Shelby was a lot of strength for me in that because it was a difficult decision at the time.
Do you know of any concerns over at the Hack household about fighting, any issues with domestic violence or any concerns there?
I've made the comment multiple times. I would like to be adopted by the Hacks. I think that is a beautiful home, a beautiful environment, great values, great morals. They're very outgoing, busy, great work ethic people. So I have no concerns.
Are you available to be that great aunt? I'm putting it in air quotes. They used to call you Aunt Danny to Camden. If Shelby and Garrett are allowed to have him come into their home, will you be able to be that family member connection for this child?
Absolutely.
And is it your intention to also protect him if there's a situation where Becca shouldn't be around him? Are you prepared to do that?
Absolutely. We've had conversations even with Becca about the fact that we love her very much, but going forward, Camden would be our top priority. And if Becca is ever not in a place to see him, we will have to tell her that. And it's not because we don't love her. It's because Camden's the top priority.
Thank you. I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Anybody have any questions, Ms. Ditto?
No, Your Honor.
No.
No questions.
No. Okay. Thank you. Ms. Lang, next witness. Oh, wait, no, I have one question. Sorry, I forgot. Ms. Ditto, what is your understanding about why maternal grandma doesn't want to be involved in this when she's local?
I think she's kind of tired of raising children. I think that she has a party life that takes precedence, and she knows that her lifestyle is not safe.
Did you cut out? Did you say her lifestyle is not safe?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Anybody have anything else? Okay, thank you. Next witness, Ms. Lang.
That's all my witnesses, Judge. Oh, wait, no. I apologize. I need to call Becca for just a moment. I'm so sorry, Judge. I forgot. Hi, Becca.
Hello.
Can you state your name for the record, please?
Rebecca Hasty.
Okay. So, Rebecca, what is your desire for where Camden should be placed and raised?
So I know, initially I sought for him to just have a safe place to go and somewhere where he would feel loved at all times and never have to wonder about that. And so for me, that is definitely Shelby and Garrett. They are two of the most just like uplifting people that I've ever known. They've helped me through so much, and I see they help so many people. And so for Camden to get that, I mean, that's what I wanted in the beginning, was a place like this for him. And so I can just say I know like that my mother heart would be at peace.
Okay, so would you be able to follow any rules that are set up about you going around him?
Yes, absolutely. I would respect fully.
Okay. And are you currently under the care of any mental health providers?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what is it? How often do you go, and who are you seeing? Who are you seeing?
So I am also, or I go to the Wilson Clinic. And so I see, or I've talked to a therapist there. And then I also am getting my medication through them as well.
And the court ordered you to do another hair strand at our last hearing. Did you get that done?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And what were the results of that?
So I know it just showed for THC.
Okay, but no cocaine or any other chemicals. And you're
hold on. What did she say? I heard tasty.
THC, Judge. It was negative for cocaine and all other substances, but was positive for THC. Do you have a prescription for medicinal marijuana in Oklahoma?
So I'm in the process of getting that. There's been a few things I've had to do. And so still working on getting that done. I went to, complete the next task, but I have to get glasses before I can do the next thing.
Does your counselor know that you use THC?
Yes.
And is it legal in Oklahoma?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you were also ordered to provide releases, and have you done that?
Yes.
And Judge, I've already provided them in the past for individuals to see. It'd be exhibits 10A and 10B, and they are the releases for the protected health information for the Wilson Clinic, as well as for an urgent care stay. And I asked for them to be admitted.
Any objection?
No objection.
No objection.
So Becca, how is it that you came to ask, did you ask Shelby and Garrett to be placement and eventually adopt Camden?
Yes, it was when I made the decision, that adoption would be best. Just with my mental health, I knew I couldn't raise a child on my own. And so then knowing that, I didn't know how, the process of finding a family for him. But then it did seem to me just kind of like a godly thing to me was like, here's a family that has been wanting to adopt for many years, and that is a beautiful family. And I felt like it was it would be an honor, I felt like, for Camden to be able to go and live with them.
Let me ask you, so you've known Garrett for how long?
I'm not good at math, but definitely since probably I was around 15, I want to say, or a little younger.
And you know Shelby's mom and dad?
Yes, for a while as well. And we, my brother went to church with them.
Okay. And then how about Danielle Ditto?
And then known her for a very, very long time, since I was a little kid. She was like an aunt to me, but then as life progressed and things happened, now she's more of like a mother figure.
Okay. A mother figure for you?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any other close family ties to anyone else right now besides her?
No.
Okay. And when did you ask Garrett and Shelby about adopting Camden? Do you remember when that was?
Yes, it was I believe it was on Thanksgiving. We were over at the Hacks and for our celebration, and we went to like a private place to talk about it and see, wanted to get their opinion on everything and see what they thought about it.
So since you've been up in Oklahoma, have you visited over at the Hacks some?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you remember how often you've been over there?
I want to say 3 times.
Okay. Have you applied for Social Security disability benefits, Becca?
So I have not. I have thought about it, but then I haven't really continued with it just because I've heard a lot of people get denied the first time. So I wanted to wait and have income is what I was thinking.
Okay. And then you heard the testimony from Shelby. You had a chance to come down and see Camden in person. In your words, what happened?
So I know I just got extremely sick, to where I was throwing up nonstop and I couldn't quit. My stomach was cramping and, they had to, I mean, it was very unbearable for me. They had to give me morphine at the hospital just to help with the pain. And they had to do that several times while I was there. And so to me, that was a lot. And then, yeah, just not able, like, and then they gave me a medication that did make me very, restless, and it was Reglan. And I told them, you know, what was happening, and they said that does happen sometimes, but it was a lot for me. It felt just like extremely, just honestly unbearable.
But are you currently having video visits with Camden?
Yes.
Okay, and how, are you communicating well with the caseworker on the case?
I have been. I know I've had technical difficulties, which is very unfortunate. So I think the time before last, I had to just do like a phone call with Camden, so he could just hear my voice and I could hear him. And then this past time, my phone actually broke, so I wasn't able to log into the app on time. But they did, you know, I did get a message saying thank you for communicating and letting us know what's going on. But those were 2 times that, you know, unfortunately, those things did happen.
So is it your intention to relinquish your rights as a mom and allow Shelby and Garrett to fully adopt Camden?
Yes, ma'am.
And do
Absolutely.
you understand that they become mom and dad? Are you able to follow all of their rules and let them make 100% of the decisions for the child?
Yes.
You understand they could decide not to let him see you or talk to you,
Yes, ma'am.
and you would respect that?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Anybody have any questions, Ms. Hasty?
No questions.
No, Ms. Vanna?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Next witness, Ms. Lang?
That's all of my witnesses, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Vanna, do you have any witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Ward?
Just whichever CASA volunteer would like to testify.
Okay, and hold on, Ms. McCary, you're tag teaming with Ms. Lang. You don't have any witnesses, do you? No, okay. Ms. McClure, sorry, do you? No, okay, Ms. Ward. You mean one of the Atkins issue you're talking about?
Yes, ma'am. One of the Atkins, whichever one of y'all wants to testify, just say your name.
He's chopping at the bits to talk. Your Honor, I'm Carl Atkins, a CASA volunteer.
Okay.
I would like to say that.
Hold on. Ms. Ward's going to ask you questions.
Okay. You're the CASA volunteer in this case, is that right?
Me and my wife together. Yes, ma'am.
And have you been the volunteers on this case from the beginning?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you, as part of your initial investigation as guardian ad litem, did you review the affidavit and talk to the attorneys involved and things of that nature?
Yes, ma'am.
If you recall, how long did this investigation take before the removal?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I don't think it was.
Hold on. No. Mr. Atkins is the only one talking right now.
Sorry, Judge.
If you don't remember, it's okay. It's but that information would be contained in the affidavit, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you remember any mention of the Milbys in that affidavit?
Yes, ma'am.
No,
ma'am. No, ma'am. I'm sorry. My memory. Remember, I have had a stroke, and so I have difficulty speaking at times, but I eventually do get it out.
Okay. So you don't remember them being mentioned in the affidavit. Do you remember when their name was first brought up during this case?
The first time I remember the names being brought up for the Milbys was during the first hearing.
The first permanency review hearing?
Yes, ma'am. That's
okay.
According to my memory.
And have you seen Camden in his current placement?
Yes, ma'am.
Is he bonded with the current foster family?
Immensely. He is. I have rarely ever seen a foster child be that bonded. And my wife has worked with many foster children, and I have been with her. And of the many I have seen, I've rarely seen one that young be that bonded.
Okay. And what does he do that demonstrates that bond in your mind?
He he is excited to see them. He looks at their faces. He responds to them with the smiles, laughs, whatever. We have been with him probably 10 or 12 hours total. We see him every month. He is always happy. And whenever they ask him to do something, even at his young age, he does what he can to do that, such as when he's learning to crawl, they put him on the floor and he crawls toward them. He doesn't try to crawl away. And he is excited when he gets to them.
Okay. So early in this case, do you recall Camden being sick and needing to go to the hospital?
Yes.
Okay.
That was prior to our getting the case. So, but we were told about it.
That's okay. Then I will move to the next question. There's already been some testimony. You went out to the Milby home. Is that right?
That is correct.
Let's start with the bigger house, the house that they're currently residing in. Did you have concerns about that home?
Only a few, none that were non-correctable.
Okay.
If you want, I can itemize them briefly.
You can briefly.
They did not have smoke detectors or fire alarms in the house, which has been corrected. The house itself was a raised house having steps going up to the house, and there was no gate or anything to prevent a child from exiting out that house and falling down the stairs. They said that they could get gates for that if needed. The structure itself was a very beautiful house. There was not a lot. It was a beautiful house, to say the least, but it needed just a few things. The animals were secured, or were secured, so they were not a concern. For the house proper, they did need to have a fence or something, as their house is off the main road, but the road to the business which they run, which is in the same structural confines of the house, where clients would bring their trailers in and their golf carts and four-wheelers to get them repaired, was not restraining. They had no way of restraining a young child from going out into that area. They have about a half acre to a 1 acre pond on the property. There is no restraining fence between the house and that area, although they said that their plan in the future was to put a fence around them. The facilities were outside, the grass was mowed, but the fences around the perimeter were, because of their agricultural or rural area, were barbed wire fences. Their neighbors have cows, and that's part of living. However, it is still a barbed wire fence between them and their neighbors. Neighbors are within 200 to 300 yards, so they are relatively close for that neck of the woods. However, they're not they are not like they are in any suburbs. There is a separation, and
So
that is a large house.
Did you go to the house that the Milbys intend to move into?
Yes, it is set about 20 to 30 yards away from the main house. It is not a long distance. It is, and I will speak to it in two phases. In the phase we found it in, and the phase it is according to the pictures they have recently sent us. When I went in there, a brief background, before my stroke, did repairs on mobile homes. And this is a mobile home. It's a single wide, approximately 80-foot long house. And so I'm familiar with what it takes to repair one. Pardon me. The inside, the outside, first of all, at that time had very minimal stairs going into the front, no stairs going out the back. Then again, no one was living in there at the time. However, that's the state it was in. Inside, it was.
Did it look like it would be a quick repair to get that house livable?
No, ma'am. It would have taken an extreme amount of work and a large amount of financial money to bring that thing up to living standards.
Do you think that it's in the best interest of Camden to be moved to the Milbys?
No, I do not.
Why is that?
Am I allowed I'm asking this question. Am I allowed to discuss the other placement option for a comparison?
Yes.
Okay.
Hold on, Ms. Ward. Hold on. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Ms. Ward, I didn't hear the answer to that question. Can you repeat it, please?
He was asking if he's allowed to talk about the current foster placement within his response to the best interest question, and I said that he could.
Okay. Okay. I didn't hear his original, what he said about best interest, but you're good. Go on.
Okay.
Originally he said that he did not think it was in the best interest of Camden to be moved, and then I asked why, and then he asked that follow-up question. So
okay.
So now he's answering.
Okay. I have provided earlier a spreadsheet that I put together before I went to visit in Oklahoma because I wanted to be fair. And I filled them out separately, one for the current placement, one for the Oklahoma. And I believe that you may have that with you. And it talks about everything from the condition of the house, the yard, pets, finances, etc. It was done purely for my benefit, however, also for yours if you have it with you. And just the raw numbers on this thing shows that the placement would be better for Camden and its current placement. The housing, the current foster parent are educated in child behavior, child nutrition, and the I will use the term Oklahoma parent because I can't vocalize names properly, are new to this ball game and do not have the training or the experience that the current foster home has. The current parents have fostered previously. They have their own child, a biological son, who was born just last 2 months ago, and their accommodations are already set up for Camden at their place. There are no required repairs to the Texas house, as opposed to even with the repairs that they have done, and it is commendable that they have done the repairs, but it is not adequate for them to move into the mobile home, as they stated early on in their home study. They were to be moved into there by January, and of course things have happened that made it where it could not be that. They have the current place has a fenced-in backyard with a 6-foot privacy fence. They live in an urban environment, so the next door neighbor is about 15 feet away. Not my best. I wouldn't like that, but that is what it is. And the other folks in Oklahoma have got a further distance between their homes. The sleeping area is accordance with CPS guidelines in Texas and Oklahoma. I think it would be a stretch with the accommodations. They have a shared laundry room and bedroom combination for one of the bedrooms, and
bonding.
there is the parents, the foster parents in Texas have bonded with Camden. He is, in my opinion, the only parents he has ever known. During the the Zoom visits with the biological mother, he acknowledged her presence the first time for about a minute, and then for the rest of the time, she read a book to him, and he, in my opinion, hasn't got a concept of computer vision, being a real person. So
let me ask this. Do you think that Camden could be harmed by a move?
Yes, I definitely feel that he would be.
I'll pass the witness.
No questions.
Anybody have any questions of Mr. Atkins?
No, Judge.
I do, Judge.
No.
I do.
Ms. Lang,
I
you don't
do.
hear me?
I can hear you,
Yes,
you're frozen.
yes.
We hear you, Judge.
Now you're
You
moving.
don't hear me?
Yes.
Did we lose her?
Mhm.
That's never a good way to
All right.
go through a hearing.
Okay. Something's weird with my internet here today. Let me move and I will be right. But y'all take about a 3-minute break. But y'all, we gotta be done at 11:30. So we'll be break with just a second so I can move. Can y'all hear me now?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
Sorry, internet's weird today. Okay, anybody have any questions of Mr. Atkins?
I do, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Lang.
Thank you. So, Mr. Adkins, what time, we heard testimony from Shelby that you got to her home between 7 and you stayed till 9 o'clock at night. Is that right for the home study? For your home?
Yes, that is approximately correct.
Okay. So if the family says that the backyard is fenced with no barbed wire on it next to the big house, did you go see that?
Yes, ma'am, I did. The fence is around the working area of the backyard. It is adequate to keep the child from going in where there are tools and equipment and the dog kennels.
All right, thank you. And then you heard testimony, well, actually, you did receive photos of the refurbishing of that other mobile home, but eventually that will be looked at for the home study, right? You saw the photos?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And Judge, I'd ask that we admit exhibits 13A through H as the photos of the remodel that's going on for the other home.
No objection.
No objection.
Do I have those, Ms. Lang?
Yes, Your Honor. They were resubmitted prior to this hearing. Do I need to put them up on the screen real quick? Do those photos indicate a significant amount of change from the time you were there, Mr. Atkins?
No.
No. Okay. Your earlier testimony was yes, whenever the ad litem had asked you that. You'd said they made a lot of progress. I'm sorry. Can you clarify?
I said they had made some progress, but I am referring to the entire project to make the house livable. They have done significant. However, it is a long way from being completed.
Okay. In your opinion, right?
Yes, ma'am. As a person who did this for several years on mobile homes, and I'm aware of health issues that can come up in the home of this age. It is not a new one. It's a very old one.
Okay. You talked about your spreadsheet, your little matrix that you had going out for your home visit. Now you remember the permanency conference that was held back in March, right? I believe it was around March 22nd. Were you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And prior to that permanency conference, you had received a copy of the home study that was done on the Milbys. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So your earlier testimony to the attorney ad litem that y'all didn't know the Milbys existed until the time of the permanency conference was not accurate, right? There was an awareness prior to March that the Milbys had wanted to be considered for placement, right?
Oh, I understand your question now. I was under the impression you were referring to their parents.
So in fact, on November the 27th, you received information, or the ICPC was actually requested on behalf of the Milbys, right?
IPC.
We don't know when that was.
I do not know when that was.
Okay.
I apologize.
That's okay. And the removal was on October the 9th, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Alrighty. So you talked about Shelby and Garrett being new to the game of parenting. Now you've heard some testimony over the past few hearings. Do you have new information now that they've been around children from ages 0 to 10? Have you heard that testimony?
Yes, ma'am, I have heard that testimony.
And in the course of interviewing them and talking to them, did you ask them specifically those kinds of questions, or is this new information for you?
I asked them those questions and I received their answer.
Okay.
They did answer me, yes.
Okay.
Ms. Lane, you have 5 more minutes. I mean, does anybody have any witnesses? Because we're going to be done at about 11:25 for my next hearing. Are there any more witnesses, anybody?
No, Your Honor.
No, I'll be done after this.
Okay. Okay, keep going, Ms. Lane. We're going to stop you at 11:15. Give everybody time to argue.
No problem, Judge. Thank you. Now, based on your training in CASA, did you learn about child bonding and things that are important for a child to be adjusted and be able to be not have a traumatic event or traumatic effects of a move? Did you learn that?
I have learned that.
And did you learn that there's a number of scenarios where a child will go from one safe and protected environment into another safe and protected environment and have no negative outcomes?
I do not remember.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to speculation. I think this question would call for expert testimony that we don't have here.
I'm just asking on what he was trained on. He has an opinion that it would be harmful for the child to be moved. And I'm just was he basing that on?
He can answer it overruled. He can answer it. You got like 3 more minutes.
Okay. I'll move on, Judge. Do you recall stating that you were going to share photographs at the permanency conference with the Milbys?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you done that?
Yes, ma'am.
When's the last time you sent photographs to them?
I believe it was a couple of months ago when I was as a result of the visit with Camden.
Okay. Your Honor, I pass the witness.
Thank you, Ms. Lane.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions of Mr. Atkins?
Nothing additional, Your Honor.
Okay. No more witnesses, anybody? Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Ms. Vann, I'm happy to begin hearing from you.
Judge, this was Ms. Lang's motion, so I would ask that Ms. Lang make arguments first.
Okay, that's fine. Ms. Lang.
I am happy to move forward, Your Honor. So whenever you heard testimony from CPS that the outstanding concerns that they had about the home study, they were not addressed at the time they received the home study back in March. Had they done that, I believe a lot of the information that's come out over the past 3 days of this hearing could have been provided at that time, but nobody made an effort to do that. So even as of now, in speaking with Audrey, what are your concerns? She said the pond is still a concern. Judge, you heard testimony. There's a fenced yard in the back of the main house, as well in the house that will eventually be where the child moves. The home study passed. You heard testimony from the home study folks out of Oklahoma. The parents, the Milbys, have completed the water safety agreement. You heard testimony that another outstanding concern was that the Milbys were not truthful. The only things that came up was they misled the department about the water being able to be hooked up to the new house. They didn't know that there was going to be a restriction on that. They had no way to know at the time they were having those conversations. They provided consistently accurate, updated information, and it will be in place by July 19th. But the house they're in right now is approved. Even if this other house never gets ready for a period of time, there is a safe and protective environment for this family, Shelby and Garrett, to have that little boy with them. That their trailer would be ready within 2 months. They had no idea about the delay for the water at that time whenever they were speaking to the department. They also were accused of not being truthful. That came up twice. The SSI payments, Judge, it's an error, obviously, in the report on page 5 versus page 8. Shelby, why would she lie about not having income? And her lupus versus her rheumatoid arthritis. You heard from her physician for rheumatoid, her rheumatologist, if you will, who was able to clarify that. They finally drilled down and figured out what it was, and she's being treated, and there's no risk of her not being able to parent and oversee the well-being of this child as a primary caregiver. There was also a question about were they licensed for kinship or foster and adopt. You heard testimony from the people who created the document, and they said, oh, you know what, that document should have been checked. They are qualified for foster adopt. There's no reason, Judge, there's been an ICPC completed. These parents, Shelby and Garrett, are ready to take this little boy. You heard testimony about that today. All the concerns that were in the CASA report previously have been addressed based on the testimony. They were concerned about why they weren't sought earlier. They were asked at Thanksgiving after the removal in October, and then contact was made with the department. ICPC was ordered, and it was in the hands of the parties by March. But none of their concerns weren't brought to the court. Their concerns weren't taken back to the people who did the study to try to get these answers. It took us having a hearing for 3 days to give you guys more information to try to get this little boy where he needs to be. The Milbys have known Becca through connections, the primary connection being Danielle Ditto, who is the only mother figure that Becca has. She has, y'all have heard testimony about her mental health concerns, and that is the nature of where she is in life. That is her family. And it's important. And the statute says we need to follow the desires of the mother. The placement process resource guide specifically says that parents need to have contacts, safe contacts, and as much as possible, either the parent, blood kin, fictive kin, and then adoptive kin. The permanency conference acknowledged that. The orders from the court, actually the order from March 26th for the initial permanency hearing said the placement goal was relative, fictive kin, then unrelated adoption. The permanency hearing order dated for June 4th said the goal was family reunification. Judge, there's no reason to believe that the Milbys will not be protective. You heard testimony that they notified CPS that Becca wasn't in a good condition to go visit the child during the Texas visit. They took that initiative. They don't have frequent contact with Becca. She's not at their house every week. We talked about a few holidays, game night once in a while. They know how to set limits. You heard Danielle has firm limits with the child that she's taken into her care and not allowed the mother to come see the child. You heard about the sex offender down in San Antonio. Limits and boundaries will never be around this child based on the testimony we heard. The home is appropriate. The home they're in right now has an approved study. It would take little to, if and when the Shelby and Garrett get over into the other home, it's a matter of going back in and looking at it and getting the authorizations. They've already been vetted. Their criminal histories, their finances, everything have been vetted. Worst case scenario, it doesn't work. They stay where they are, and it's a healthy, safe environment. No one lied, Judge. They have a strong desire to be parents. That's evidenced by them trying to get licensed, seeking licensure over 5 years ago, continuing to study and do things to help them be better parents, spending a lot of time with a lot of friends, fictive family, children from ages 0 on up. They even have that little girl, Emily, coming and visiting every year because she's bonded and connected to them. There are no medical or behavioral health problems that are going to limit their ability to parent. The CASA report said that both parents have health concerns. You heard testimony where Garrett has none, and Shelby is a responsible individual with her mental health and her physical health. And you heard it. We even brought her healthcare provider here to provide that information that the other parties could have gotten the same information from had they taken the initiative and really wanted the placement here. But Judge, you got a great foster family, and there's no denying that. But they were very kind during the first hearing that we had, the family group conference. But the standard, the law, the right thing to do in these cases is to get this child close to the family, the culture that is part of the parents' world. And Mama has made she's expressed what she wants. This is her desire. She said that from day one. From the minute of the removal, she talked about looking at adoption. She was honest. She looked out for the well-being of her child. She connected and found a safe, stable place. I don't think Danielle could have taken the child. She probably would have asked her, but she has her hands full in a wheelchair. But Becca made her request, and she knows the rules. And it is in the best interest of this child to have bonds close to the mother in a very safe and stable environment. With that, Judge, I ask that the court consider moving Camden to Shelby and Garrett's home, allowing Becca to have whatever is appropriate, give everybody time to reassess and look at this. And there's really no harm going from one safe, stable environment to another safe, stable environment. There's been no testimony provided to the court that shows that has a deleterious effect at all. That's all I have, Judge.
Okay, thank you. Ms. McCary, do you have anything? No. Okay, thank you. Ms. McClure? Okay. Ms. Van, I want to hear from Ms. Ward last, so I'm going to let you go next.
Thank you, Judge. The department asked the court today to deny the request of respondent mother to change the placement of the child. And it's not about the home, and the Milbys sound like great folks. It's about the best interest of this child, Judge. And this child, the only parent that he has known is the current foster parent. You heard testimony from Miss Milby that they were given the opportunity to have in-person visits, and she believed that would be overwhelming for the child, and didn't. Hold on, Judge. May I have a moment, please?
Understand.
Sorry, Judge. And that she thought that would be overwhelming and so opted for virtual visits. This child does not know the Milbys. They did have the opportunity to have visits and to build that bond. This child is now bonded with the foster family, and those are the only parents he knows. And as we know in CPS cases, that every move of a child is traumatic. And so the statement that there would be no harm to a child, this child does not know the Milbys and had the opportunity to get to know them, and that was not taken advantage of. And so Judge, we are asking the court today to deny the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ward?
Your Honor, going into this hearing, I actually had a lot of unanswered questions due to a very poorly written home study. And I think probably each party in here who has looked at this home study would agree that the home study was poorly written. There were a lot of questions. There were a lot of perhaps typos or errors. I don't disagree with that at all. This hearing has been very helpful. And I would say a lot of my questions or concerns have been alleviated. However, the Milbys are lovely people, and I really do hope that they're able to adopt a child. I believe that child is probably out there waiting for them. This is not about their best interest. This is not about mom's best interest. This is about Camden's best interest. And I know they want to adopt him, and I know mom wants them to adopt him, but Camden doesn't know them, and they are not family. They're not even fictive kin, Your Honor. They are friends of friends. That's the main issue here. This is a question of, do we move Camden from a bonded, stable placement that he knows and has known since October to a placement where he doesn't know them, and they are essentially also strangers because they're not relatives and they're not the type of fictive kin that I think the law intends when it refers to fictive kin. This is not somebody who's as close as a sister. This is as close as my cousin's cousin, who I might have met once in my life. And the harm that we risk moving this young child to strangers really outweighs the benefit of getting him with someone who might kind of have a bond with mom, maybe someday. And maybe mom could visit if her mental health crisis doesn't prevent her from visiting. And maybe he could have that very limited family tie. I don't think that's what the law is intending when it talks about kin. These are not family members. These are not essentially family members. These are friends of friends. And I love that they are being supportive to the mother in this case. I think she needs a lot of support, and it's sad that her mom is not supporting her. But it's not in Camden's best interest to move him from this stable home at this time. If something comes up with the foster home, I absolutely would say, let's move him to Oklahoma. If the foster parents put in notice, we wouldn't be here right now. But we've got a foster home that's willing and able to continue being this forever placement if we get to termination of parental rights in this case. And I believe that that's in Camden's best interest at this time. And so I'm asking you to deny the request to move Camden.
Okay, thank you. Okay, like Ms. Ward said, I have learned a lot too after reading the home study, and I had a whole list of questions that I too had after reading the home study. And I still have some questions, but I have a new case hearing right now. So I will email my 1 or 2 questions to the lawyers and hear back from y'all on that regard. And then I'll, like I said, I'll read the home study again with all this information, and I'll be in touch via email. So y'all be expecting email from me later on today. But I got court all day, so whenever I get done. So, okay, thank y'all. Everybody on the Hasty case excused. Ms. Hasty, you know, you have a service plan, you have to comply, your parental rights can be subject to termination. Y'all are set for mediation, and our next hearing is a trial on October 1st. Yes, we need to have a special hearing. Thank y'all.